episode of the Brickyard Podcast. We are coming to you live on a Tuesday night. It is currently 9 o'clock exactly on the East Coast, 8 o'clock Central Time, and we are here to continue our breakdown series of every single division schedule. And this week we are going to be going over the AFC West, giving our prediction for every single team here. So you're going to be doing the Chiefs and the Chargers. I am going to be picking the Broncos and the Raiders, and we're going to go through every single game. After that, we only have the North left, which will pretty much lead into the beginning of the NFL season, and we finally had football this week. It's been a little bit of a slow August. You drove across the country, needed a week last week to set up, so I was gone for 3 weeks during the summer, so a little bit inconsistent here. However, we are back now for the full football season, and you know what? We didn't even miss any news because what happened in August? We had Aaron Rodgers go on Pat McAfee and rant about Dr. Fauci again.
We've seen this story before.
We've seen it over and over and over again, but it seems odd because it seemed like the last two times there was an immediate backlash and campaign against Aaron Rodgers, where this time people kind of just shrugged their shoulders and were like, yeah, whatever, and it kind of became a meme here. And then Pat McAfee was pushing it on his show where he went and then pretty much went around the room, and then they pleaded the fifth on everything. You saw the Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator start to do that, but that's pretty much everything you missed in the NFL as far as what happened leading into week one of preseason.
Yeah, at this point, I don't even want to talk about Aaron Rodgers and the COVID stuff because we've been talking about it for 4 years. If anybody needs to get over it, it's Aaron Rodgers because COVID's behind us now. We don't care anymore. So it's a shame what happened. I understand that you're the victim here, but nobody cares. So that's how I feel about the Aaron Rodgers thing.
Yeah, and then what happened after that? Well, between you moving and us recording another episode, the WNBA imploded, and now we had people make a documentary called What is a Woman that went viral a couple years ago, and now the WNBA is having to have meetings to define what a woman is. And I'm not necessarily taking a side, even though if I did take a side for entertainment purposes, I would prefer Enes Kanter gets drafted into the WNBA. But now, instead of the WNBA talking about basketball, it's talking about, is Caitlin Clark being the best basketball player in the WNBA or the face of the league racist? Is Angel Reese the face of the league? And then every other clip is just seemingly flagrant fouls in the WNBA, over the top drama, and the NBA is a little bit soap opera-y as well, but kind of in a different, more wholesome way, where it's more like reality TV, where the WNBA now is just going full WWE at this point, where they're just going full drama, and it's going fully off the rails. And they have in their policy that only, I'm pretty sure in their player association they wrote that only women can play in the WNBA, but now it's kind of a question, and the WNBA is going to have to get that figured out, and they've been put in a very awkward position here.
Yeah, and Bob Gino, thank you for joining in. As
WNBA
far
fan,
as
Bob Gino.
yes, big WNBA fan for this guy. As far as the Enes Kanter thing, I don't have an angle, but just like you, I'm going with the entertainment route. Would it be funny to see Enes Kanter, a guy that hasn't really played in the NBA in the last 5 or 6 years, coming back to play for the WNBA? For entertainment purposes, I support it. If you want to talk about the integrity of the game, all that, we can talk about that another time. For just pure entertainment, and I know, we pray for chaos. We pray for it in the NFL. We pray for it in baseball, basketball, all the sports that we follow. And what would be more fun than seeing Enes Kanter put on a wig, average a minimum of 40 points a game, 25 rebounds minimum in the NBA? For me, that's the arc that I want to see. whether he gets drafted or not.
Well, I believe Enes Kanter was fasting when he went on his generational run with the Portland Trailblazers for Ramadan. So he was one of those NBA players where they're like, "Oh my God, how does he fast?" And halftime, he's downing peanut butter and jelly sandwiches just to get some stamina back. But if Enes Kanter did play in the WNBA, wouldn't he have to wear a hijab and like fully cover himself if he identifies as a woman and he's Muslim? Like, wouldn't he have to do that also if he's in the WNBA?
Yeah,
Or
it
she?
poses an
Sorry.
interesting question. Yeah, it poses an interesting question. Bob Gino asked the likelihood he joins. Zero. I can't say it's zero. I'm saying it's like 1%. That there's a small chance that he joins, but I honestly think between probably all the women in the league, and then all of their fan, I think would really get upset by that. So honestly, I'm voting that he's probably not going to be or whatever she identifies as will not be in the league most likely.
Yeah, and the most ridiculous part about it is it seemed like 3 years ago the WNBA actually had some momentum where you your league plays in a time where there's kind of a sports drought. Baseball's on, but there's so many games where it's just perpetually on. It's more of a live game that you go to. So
And
you
it's also
had
not quite for baseball. It's also not quite at the peak of baseball either. It's not
right.
quite when it matters ultimately.
Yeah, so you have a chance. Like we went out one summer night and we're like, "Oh, what's on ESPN? Slip and slide." Like what?
Yeah, it's it's the most cursed time of the year where football and basketball aren't quite back yet, or hockey even, and it's not quite the peak of baseball season. So unless if you're near a ballpark and you're going to a game regularly, like if you live in one of these major cities, um, then basically like baseball isn't really important until September. And so you're not quite there yet, but then September comes in and football's back, so we don't need that. So it's just 2 months of just lull, slip and slide. There's reruns of old games, but it doesn't quite scratch that itch for us.
Yeah, and this like happened because a coach wore a shirt, and then every single grifter jumps onto it. So at some point, you're like, okay, you have someone like Enos Cantor, Royce White, who's the famous for being afraid to fly. Um, so like, there's
What?
that. So do you know who Royce White is? He's like a former NBA player turned like conservative pundit, and he's famous because he hated flying in the NBA. So he's like he got super anxious on planes, and then he went full on wig. He had a Fox News interview with someone. So Enos Cantor did his stunt, and then he decided to jump on top of it. And then Enos Cantor also had the Enos Cantor Freedom now, and now he is, he was a freedom fighter against China, and now he's gonna try and enter the WNBA. And now it's putting the WNBA in an awkward position, and it's kind of just funny for everyone involved, even if you don't have a particular side, because the WNBA royally messed up any momentum they had, and they literally were like, you know what, we have a chance to grow as a league, but why don't we do the exact opposite? And then Caitlin Clark will literally, there was a clip of her where she breaks someone's ankles, doesn't even touch the defender falls down, and then they call it offensive foul, and then literally a play later someone mauls her on the other end, they don't call it. I'm like, what are we doing at this point? It's like just not talking about the game. We're not talking about highlights. It seems like anytime the WNBA is mentioned, then you have now all of these right wing grifters who are jumping on, like Patrick Bet David. It's like, so what percent, Tom, Vinny, and Adam, do you think there is already a man in the WNBA, and that's why they can't, you know, have a position here? And then you have like people like him. Every single right wing pundit is now jumping on that, and the league isn't really doing anything about it, and their PR hasn't been that good either. Like the NBA has messed up before and lost fans, but the product has still been good, you know?
Yeah, yeah. The WNBA, I don't see, I don't see there's any way that Enos Cantor makes it into the league. But it's a funny storyline when there's no sports going on. Luckily, football is coming back very soon. We're only pretty much exactly a month away at this point. We're going to cover the AFC West this week, and then we have the Norths to cover. And then by the time that we're done with all of our divisions, we're going to be previewing week one and the entire season of the NFL, as we'll have football on September 9th. Countdown coming soon. But as far as news that we missed, that's about it otherwise.
Yeah, and then we finally have week one of the preseason, and turns out, planning for your future at quarterback maybe isn't a dumb decision. Everyone jumped on the Rams for taking Ty Simpson. I'm like, call me crazy, but if Matthew Stafford is talking about, oh, I don't know if I want to play next year, it seemed like he only came back because he won MVP. But as soon as you utter the words, I am thinking about retiring and I might not come back, and Tom Brady is calling him like, no, you've had like the best years of your career. You have to come back and play for at least 5 more years if Brady had his way. But now you have Ty Simpson come in. Everyone's pissed. Like, why wouldn't you go out there and draft a receiver? Why wouldn't you go out there, get him some help on defense? But Ty Simpson comes in, goes 21 for 25, has a passer rating of 125, throws for 2 touchdowns, and looks pretty mobile and pretty good on the run. You look at him, you're like, whoa. If this guy can have 2 or 3 years behind Stafford, you actually have a successor. Isn't it crazy that smart franchises will actually go out there and plan for their future? But no, everyone's like, let's crucify the GM for even thinking about planning ahead here. I'm like, you literally just got the best cornerback available. You got Myles Garrett. Aaron Donald is thinking about unretiring, and we can't plan for our future. Like, really? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, and I also think like you have to look at who we're talking about. There's like certain GMs that I'm never gonna doubt what they do historically. Like if we're talking about in the NFL, Les Snead and Howie Roseman are two guys that whatever they decide to do, I'm probably gonna be on board because those guys are the best GMs in the league. Howie Roseman, he wants to move off AJ Brown. I believe him. He's made a lot of great moves. Les Snead and the Rams, the last decade, if they're not the winningest franchise over the last decade, they're in the top three at least. They've made it to the Super Bowl twice at this point. And at this point, they've acquired talent. They got Trent McDuffie this offseason. They got Myles Garrett. They have the most complete roster. And Matt Stafford is approaching 40. He's put 20 years into the league. You want to draft somebody. Another team like the Packers did the same thing with Brett Favre when Brett Favre was approaching retirement. They drafted Aaron Rodgers. They had another 20 years of success. When Aaron Rodgers got old, after winning 2 consecutive MVPs, they draft Jordan Love, and now they have their future quarterback for maybe the next 10 years. So smart franchises know how to continue winning after they've had their lightning in a bottle, ultimately. And I'm sure when Mahomes is entering 35, 36, 37, 8 years old, the Bills, the Ravens, if they're smart, they're going to draft their replacement ahead of time rather than throwing him out into the wood chippers week one the following season.
Yeah, and if you're running a business, what do you prefer? You're relevant and in the top, say 4 or 5 in your conference over the next decade and a half again, or maybe you win a Super Bowl but you suck for another decade. So if Ty Simpson is the guy, you actually hit on him in the first round and he can replace Matthew Stafford. Most ownerships would actually take very good versus, winning a Super Bowl because you sell more tickets long term, sell more jerseys. Yeah, I did see that the POTUS is very big on the Rams. He likes Jackson Dart as well and the Giants. So, if, New York is going to keep winning this year, maybe we see the Giants play well.
Yeah, hopefully. Let's see if the president curses them or gives them good luck. I feel like it's gone both ways with Trump pre and post presidency, but bullish on the Rams. I also think like you can look if we're looking at negligible should they have drafted Ty Simpson. Let's also look at other franchises that didn't plan ahead. The Saints didn't plan ahead with Drew Brees. They sucked for a few years. Now they have Tyler Shuck, thank God. The Dolphins with Dan Marino. It's been 25 years since they won a playoff game post Dan Marino, and they haven't figured out their quarterback. They've had the Chad Penningtons of the world, the Tuas of the world, Now they have
Tannehill's probably
Malik
the best
Willis.
thing since, and they weren't even good with Dan Marino. They made it to a Super Bowl, but like they weren't like winning.
They were consistently good, but they were never. I mean, they made the Super Bowl once and got blown out. But it's just the point of the fact that there's examples of teams like the Dolphins who have sucked for 25 years. And then there's teams like the Rams and the Packers and the Eagles and all those guys. They've successfully found their replacements, and now they've been successful the last 20 years because of it.
Yeah, what you don't want to be is the team that's like, oh shoot, we need a quarterback, so let's get a gap year. We'll sign Kirk Cousins for a year. Maybe we'll try out Kyler Murray. Maybe Carson Wentz has something left back in the tank. Oh, maybe Geno Smith, we can resurrect his career for a year or two here. Oh, maybe Gardner Minshew can start for us for a year. That is like the death note on your franchise for not even the next 5 years, but maybe the next 10 years, unless you get lucky, like the Saints. And we'll see if the Saints are good this year. It's like Tyler Shuck showed some promise, but we'll see what happens when we have a full 8 games of film on him this year. But like for the Rams, it's like it is crazy that they get crucified, and then Ty Simpson comes out, looks pretty good in preseason, and then a team that maybe didn't plan ahead for Ben Roethlisberger, thought they could run it with someone like Mason Rudolph. They might have their guy now. Drew Aller came in, touchdown on every single drive. He goes 10 for 13, has a 154 QBR, goes for 153, 2 touchdowns passing, and then he rushed for a touchdown as well. And then he did the Aaron Rodgers celebration. If this guy is going to sit behind Aaron Rodgers for a year, I'm not going to say that he's going to be as good as Patrick Mahomes, but we may be looking at a Mahomes as he sits behind Drew Brees or sits behind Alex Smith for a year and then comes out next year. And then this dude's going to have weapons. It's not like he's not going to have help. He's going to have DK Metcalf. They have, 5 tight ends. They're collecting
Michael Pittman, too.
Michael Pittman as well. Yeah, so it's like this team is going to be really good. Their defense is always solid. So we'll see if Mike McCarthy can turn back the clock and maybe reconnecting with Aaron Rodgers can help maybe reinstill some love for the game for Mike McCarthy, because in Dallas it seemed like he had some fun moments, but Mike McCarthy is by no means a bad coach. He's just not elite, and he's going to get out-coached in big games, which is typical for the Steelers. But if you have someone like Drew Aller, he won a Super Bowl earlier in his career than Andy Reid did, and it took Andy Reid getting a generational talent in Patrick Mahomes to actually be a successful Super Bowl winning quarterback. But Mike McCarthy, he's already won a Super Bowl, so we'll see if he has had some time to reflect and maybe update his ways. But Drew Aller's interesting, to say the least, and he was a little bit overlooked in the draft because he didn't look this good in college.
No, he played out of Penn State, and Penn State by no means was. They're not the Penn State as they were back in the 80s and 90s when, things were happening behind the scenes that we won't get into. But, Drew Aller, he was a 4th-round pick for the Steelers this year. He has no expectations to play this year, and I honestly think that benefits the quarterbacks historically. Unlike a guy like Cam Ward, who he played in the preseason, he did not look good. This is now year 3 that we're entering in with the Cam Ward experience. And so far, what did they do for him to see? Year 2? Okay, year 2 for him in this case. So what did they do for year 1 for him? He needs to get weapons. Let's bring in Tyler Lockett. He needs an offensive line. Let's have the worst offensive line in football. He needs a defense behind him. Let's have one of the worst defenses behind him as well. Running backs, how about Tajay Spears? No disrespect to Tajay Spears. All of that to be said, Cam Ward, going into the first round, everyone was like, Cam Ward's obviously the guy with the number 1 overall pick. And obviously, this has happened in several drafts. We can go back NBA history, NFL history, whatever you want to look at. Anytime I see somebody who's a quintessential number 1 overall pick who I'd never heard of prior to the beginning of the season, usually ends up being a bust. Is Cam Ward a bust yet? I'm going to give him this year to decide, but historically, he's on track to being a bust at this point, especially with how he looked in the preseason. Didn't look great last year. This year, they haven't done too much to make him look that much better. And this is the Cam Ward that we know and love. He can run, but...
No, he just gets tackled outside the pocket there. Let's see this read. Okay, pretty good throw. but he goes 5 for 12.
Just scrambling. He looks panicked out there. Miss throws a ball there. And we got there. Another ball. That probably wasn't the best route to run.
The problem is this is supposed to be your guy, and he looks atrocious in preseason.
Yeah. And he's like
what is
that's
that?
his offensive line does not look great either.
What is this?
The
Watch
problem,
this
my
again.
issue is that he's not making the right reads because, like, I'm looking at the tight end there. He could have been open if you throw with anticipation. I'm looking at some of these routes. They're open guys here, but he's just not looking down the field. And for a guy that's year 2, I mean, I've seen guys. I mean, Tyler Shuck was a rookie last year too. He looked much better halfway through the season than what we saw from Cam Ward the entire season. And it's just like that's another missed ball right there. Like looking down here, it's not like there isn't guys that are open. He was open. The guy that he threw to, he just threw him 2 seconds too late. So, like, I just don't believe in Cam Ward, frankly. And it doesn't help that they're in a division with a top defense in the Texans. We have the Jaguars who are going to be better than they are. And then the Colts are the Colts, but either way, they have a tough division for them as far as defenses are concerned. So I don't believe in Cam Ward very much, to say the least.
Yeah, and Cam Ward had his issues. He goes 5 for 12 in that game, and this is the problem where it's like it's week 1 in preseason, and this is supposed to be the #1 pick last year. He's supposed to be your guy, and he still doesn't look this. Maybe he's a little bit rusty, but man, he looks like playoff CJ Stroud in preseason, which is not good. And then also Tua, someone who is a little bit shaky with the Atlanta Falcons. Michael Penix is still not cleared for 11 on 11 yet, so Tua is probably going to end up being the starter. But there are some preseason highlights from Tua, and he looks like, he was playing with a concussion at this point. Like, maybe Tua is better when he's concussed, to be honest.
Well, who do they play week 1? Because that'll decide whether he'll be concussed week 1 or not. I'll look up their schedule, but I unfortunately I wasn't able to see too much of week 1 because I was on the road, but I'm excited to see how everything plays out. Tua is facing in week 1 the Steelers with T.J. Watt and Cam Hayward and all those guys. Not a great start for them. Then they face Green Bay in week 3, so they have some tough. We went through their schedule already. They have a pretty brutal schedule for a team that wasn't all that good last year. So
yeah,
interesting to see. So we got him right here.
We know the other 4 guys. We'll talk about those guys in a
Yeah, so Tua with the Falcons. It just looks wrong. Okay,
Oh.
immediately fumbles the snap right away.
Good start to He looks. I kind of like him in Atlanta. I like how he looks in Atlanta though.
Yeah, it's because Michael Vick was a lefty, so it just makes sense.
Yeah.
A little check down to Kyle Pitts there. Kyle Pitts Sr. now getting in on the action.
Not to be confused with Kyle Pitts Jr.
Yeah.
There it is.
Nice.
There it is. This
a completion behind the line of scrimmage with the flag on the play.
Hey, fantasy
Hate to see
football.
it.
Kyle Pitts. It's his year. Oh, don't know what that was. Kyle Pitts got 3 targets right there. I don't know.
At least
I don't know.
someone's
Maybe
throwing
it's
to
Kyle Pitts' year. Usually, you only throw to Kyle Pitts 1 game a year, and it's always when he's already on the waiver wire.
Yeah,
Got
like
another
Kevin Burrow
target for Kyle Pitts.
He's going to be
All right, so
racking
Kyle
up the
Pitts-
4-yard receptions from Tua here.
So
Another
Kyle
one
Pitts is
into
going to
the
have
ground.
200. He's going to have 200 receptions for 900 yards. So that's exciting.
Yeah. So that's Tua there. So Falcons will be interesting, and then the Browns quarterback situation, not good.
It's what it always is in our lifetime.
Yeah. Booger McFarland, though, thinks otherwise. I saw a take where Booger McFarland says he thinks the Browns could be his dark horse team next year. I don't know.
Okay.
He's optimistic. I don't know if he was associated or coach with the Browns at all, but there's a quote of him talking about how they could be his dark horse team. There was apparently a practice where Todd Monken got frustrated and he ended practice early, where it ended on a illegal formation, and then they had a couple false starts and some miscommunications. But And then the problem is they're just paying so much money to Deshaun Watson that you kind of have to start him.
You know what's interesting about the Browns that I read is that the Browns are one of the only teams in NFL history that their entire career, I'm talking all-time record, has never been below 500. And this year is an opportunity for them to potentially go to having finally a losing record all time. Because they started off, if you look at the Browns, basically from their inception to 1975, they were winning, they were going 12-1, 12-2, 11-3, whatever it may be. They were dogs before they went into the Super Bowl era. And then they were pretty comparable all the way up until their expansion team that came back. And because of how dog shit they've been the last 30 years, this year they could very well have a losing record all time. They're the only team to never have a losing record, all-time record.
So they can finally alleviate the Cardinals from that spot as the worst team in NFL history.
Uh-huh.
The Cleveland Browns could be, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it. I think the Browns could be the surprise of the AFC. Because I think Deshaun Watson, Watson's going to wind up being better than people think.
Okay.
Wow.
Because what you described, we might as well put the guy out there and play because we paid. That's the sunk cost fallacy. That's I would do the same thing too. But I think most good teams wouldn't, right? Most teams, it's really teams that would never find themselves in that predicament to begin with. But just because you're paying the guy a lot of money, we've seen a lot from him. Now, we were just talking about the other week, he was legitimately a top 5 quarterback in the NFL when he was in Houston.
Legit top 5. I'll never forget watching him in the post-game press conference when a reporter asked him a question about some coverage, and he detailed the coverage like Peyton Manning does on Monday night on the Manning cast. He was talking about the safety and cover 3 and all this. And I'm like, man, that dude is on it.
Whoa, he did his job? You mean he studies film? That's crazy. Deshaun Watson studies film. Who knew?
I don't think you should put Peyton Manning and Deshaun Watson in the same conversation. And was he very good in Houston? Yes. Was he top 5? That was a pretty competitive top 5 back in that time. We're talking Tom Brady still playing, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers is at the peak of his powers, Mahomes is still playing at that time, Lamar, Josh Allen at that time. Deshaun Watson was very good, but I don't think you can put him there either. Also, for Deshaun Watson, this happens in baseball a lot, and I feel like it happens in football too. In baseball, there's certain patterns that people will have. For example, there was a player, Chris Davis, who would take Adderall before every game, and he was a great hitter. And then they banned Adderall, so the following year, he was completely dog shit, and his career was over immediately from that. He went from batting 350 home runs a season to batting $150, couldn't hit for power at all, completely ruined it. And for Deshaun Watson, maybe it's not the Adderall, maybe it's the massage therapy that he was receiving. Maybe that was what put him over the edge, alleviated him a little bit. That could very well be the case for him. Maybe he needs to return to Houston, or maybe he needs to go back to his old ways. Maybe not in the, sexy assault way, but maybe he needs some more massages, and maybe he'll be good again.
Yeah, so the problem with Booger's thing is I saw him talk about a cover 2 one time in Houston a while ago. The last time Deshaun Watson started for the Houston Texans? January 2021. You know how long ago that is? A half decade. And then also, you know what has also changed since then? Oh, you handed this guy $230 million fully guaranteed. You don't think that takes away some of the love for the game for him? Because he can sit back and be like, if this doesn't work out with the Cleveland Browns, worst case scenario, I have $230 million. And that's not including if he's actually being smart, has good investment advisors and accountants around him. He can easily turn that into a multi-billion-dollar net worth. And then people are like, oh yeah, but in 2019, they asked him a question and he said there was a safety in cover 2 and he mentioned cover 3. I'm like, whoa, it's almost like that's your job as a quarterback, to read the field. So is that where we're at right now with Cleveland and the Browns?
I mean, I'm looking at this roster. This roster does not look good. Their number one receiver is Jerry Jeudy. And the show, if you've been following the show for our entire tenure, you know how I feel about Jerry Jeudy. The number 2 guy and number 3 guy are both rookies. So how good will they be? We shall see. I hope they do great. But, you know, they're rookies. You can't bank on them. Harold Fannin, he's an okay tight end. Offensive line is underwhelming. And their defense, they just lost the best player of all time for them. So what are we talking about exactly? And we're also talking, you mentioned 2021 was the last time Deshaun Watson was a good quarterback. And that was 5 years ago at this point. So This would be the same thing as if we're like, you know what? I think that in this case, let's look at, I'm trying to think of another. This would be like, Kirk Cousins for the Raiders, right? He was really good in Minnesota in 2019. So now him in Vegas this year, he's going to be this generational guy because of how good he was 5 years ago when he had Justin Jefferson and all these other guys on his team that were much better. He's the reason, because Kirk Cousins was good 5 years ago. It's a sunken fallacy, as they say.
Yeah, it's like when Patriots fans were like, well, Cam Newton was good before T.J. Watt committed near murder on Thursday Night Football. Like, yeah, a lot of players are good before they have a horrific injury. But you know what happens? And then also, like, mentally, Deshaun Watson, like, to go through, like, he settled all of this out of court, so we're never going to know what happens. So, I mean, I'm not going to put anything on him. Did he do it? Did he not? Like, we'll never know for sure. I mean, some people will always think he did it. Some people will be like, I don't care. But, like, the fact that he just went through all of that, like, that just has to destroy your psyche, too, and your entire, like, joy for the game. Like, he's a human at the end of the day, too. Like, even if he is a monster, like, we don't know if that is the case. There's, like, a lot of lawsuits, so it's a little bit weird when they all pile up this much and you have this many allegations. So, you know, he could be a monster very well, but at the same time, if he is a monster, that's also another reason to be like, well, maybe he won't be that good next year. But it'd be good for the league if he was. I really hope he turns back. But, like, when we're saying, oh, Deshaun Watson in Houston, like, dude, this is 5 years ago here. But there are other teams that have sucked, like the New York Jets, but Geno Smith, he was reportedly good in training camp, and then he had a rough practice versus the Bucs. Had a rough preseason game there, but you do have a little bit of hope. Check out Cade Klubnik for the New York Jets. He came in and he looked pretty.
We'll see how he plays coming off.
So you have him here.
Nice start.
Pretty nice throw to Garrett Wilson.
Good ball. Good ball.
Throws a dart his way. This 3rd and 5. Rips it to Garrett Wilson again, finding his guy.
Looks like he's got a good pocket presence. Can move a little bit.
Yep. Knows when to get out, reading the field. Okay.
He kind of gives me a Bo Nix. He kind of gives me a Bo Nix feel so far.
Yeah, I see that. It's like similar stance, similar posture. He's like a little bit mobile as well. I see the
goal. I can see the throwing motion too a little bit. But I support.
But he comes in, he looks pretty decent, and now the Jets have a little bit of hope here with Cade Klubnik looking good. But that'll definitely be an interesting story to develop. We definitely need to see a little bit more, and then once we get into real games, it'll be tough. But, the Jets did have a pretty good draft here. Say what you will about Aaron Glenn, but at least they're getting interceptions in practice.
Yeah, that's a win. I mean, honestly, like, I'm looking at the Jets roster, and if he's going to talk about the Browns being a potential dark horse, I think the Jets have a lot more upside than what the Browns have. Yes, they're going to have to compete with the Patriots and the Bills in that division, so I don't think they make the playoffs, but they got 3 rookies that I was high on entering the draft. They got Kenyon Sadiq, who could be the next Brock Bowers, insert other great tight ends that have come through the draft over the last few years. They got Adonai Mitchell, who we were high on, Amari Cooper as well. Omar Cooper, I mean. And then they did get Minka Fitzpatrick as well. So this is a team that, and they got David Bailey as well, who was a top pick. So those three guys alone, if they all hit, which in the NFL it's very rare that occurs, but if they hit on those picks, then the Jets, last year they were what, 4-13. Maybe this year they're 7-10, but they're building for the future and they look a lot better, especially if we see Cade Klubnik later in the season. I'm not saying the Jets are going to be good next year, but I think they could be one of those good bad teams that we see every year.
Yeah, I definitely think with him and Geno Smith, I think he'll eventually take over the starting job at the end of the year, but it'll definitely be interesting. Other teams that are rebuilding a little bit, last quarterback to go over here in preseason, check out Fernando Mendoza. He was drafted for his accuracy, and wow. If you didn't see these preseason highlights, he throws some absolute darts here.
Carson Beck was looking good too.
Yeah, Carson Beck also looked good. And then Carson Beck was also one of my sleeper picks coming into the draft, especially out of the University of Miami. But we got to see him and Mendoza both play. But Mendoza's like standing in the pocket, and he's still delivering, getting the ball out of his hands here under pressure.
Yeah, he's got good zip on the ball.
Yeah, this throw, too, was ridiculous.
Yeah, let's discuss. Got a little bit of mobility there.
Yeah,
What's good about him is, I think with him, especially the fact that Brady's the owner, they've already said he's not going to play at all his rookie year, and I think that's going to really benefit him quite a bit.
Yeah, especially sitting behind Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. But he can
And
get
they
the
need
ball
more
out quick.
help for this team. Like, the Raiders could use like a year sucking. That was a ridiculous play. Like, watch the window. He just fits it in there. Yoink. Right between two defenders.
Got some play action there. Looks like that's Brock Bowers right there. Oh, that might have been.
He like has some tools. He definitely looks like he could use a year to get some help and some talent and just really get a better feel for the game. But like he's under pressure. He's at least getting rid of the ball and not taking sacks, and he's not fumbling it either. So he kind of looks like if Daniel Jones could hold on to the ball.
I feel like he also kind of gives me some Kirk Cousins vibes too, just in the sense that he gets the ball out, he doesn't take sacks, and he's accurate. And I feel like for that alone, I think he'll be better than Kirk Cousins career-wise, but I think that's what I see the comp. So I think getting Kirk Cousins for the Raiders actually fits him really well because I feel like that's kind of the type of player he could be. I think he'll be better, but the same type of pocket passer, not necessarily mobile, but can be accurate and not take big loss plays.
Yeah, but you definitely had some good and some bad there with Mendoza. And then Carson Beck also had some good plays. He's someone who's going to have a cannon, and I think the Cardinals are definitely going to be in good hands. But overall, it's looking like a really interesting quarterback class. We've had some really bad ones as of late. It's been pretty hit or miss. So I'm hoping this year we actually get some real talent because people, they're like Mendoza, Carson Beck, there's not too much talent, but we've seen some flashes from Drew Aller. Of Cade Klubnik, he has Kenyon Sadiq, Breece Hall, and Garrett Wilson. So it's not for lack of help necessarily. It's really going to be, can that offensive line stay upright and, protect him here. But overall, I think the preseason does get me excited because we've seen a little bit of an energy infusion and a little bit more life this preseason than I feel like last year.
Absolutely. I would agree. I'm interested to see how these guys play out. It sucks because preseason, we've had those false alarms before where, for example, like I know Zach Wilson looked great in the preseason one year. There's been a couple of examples of the preseason maybe giving us false hope. I know not Bailey Zappi, but there was another guy for the Patriots that had that same kind of, Ryan Mallett had that. So I don't put too much stock in the preseason, but I think for rookies especially, that's where you can see them at their rawest and see, does this guy show some flashes? And I think that with Drew Aller, I definitely see it. with Francisco Mendoza, I can definitely see it. Cade Klubnik has some potential there too. So it just gives you an ability to see them and what those front offices were seeing in those quarterbacks when they went to draft them.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially Ty Simpson. I definitely think Ty Simpson is the one where that'll be the real, like, okay, everyone needs to file their apology form to Les Snead if he pans out here. And it's going to take a few years, which is the problem with it. And I think the biggest detriment was just how poorly Sean McVay handled it, because Sean McVay was extremely unprofessional when it happened. I don't know if something was going on in his personal life that caused him to be that annoyed there. But like Sean McVay, the fact that he was the one who just kind of he set the tone, it felt like, for that Ty Simpson story. And then he comes out preseason, looks really good. And then Sean McVay is also a quarterback whisperer. So if Ty Simpson is just, like a smaller Jared Goff with some mobility, okay, that'll work.
Yeah, absolutely. But we do have our divisions to cover as well. We have the AFC West that we'll be covering today. I'll be covering the Chargers. You'll be covering I'll be charging the Chargers and the Chiefs, and you got the Raiders and the Broncos. Last year, the Broncos not only won the division, but they also took the AFC title as well for the number 1 overall seed. As far as this season right now, like before we go into the record breakdowns here, just thinking about the AFC West now, how do you see it shaking out, and how do you feel about, I guess, each of those teams quickly?
Yeah, so for each of these teams right now, I think Kansas City for me is honestly the biggest question mark, because yes, they did add Kenneth Walker. The problem with that, though, is I still really don't believe in their receiver help. They haven't been particularly good at drafting wide receivers here. They haven't really had a good wide receiver hit since Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill was kind of an accident. He was more so supposed to be a special teams guy, and then now, your star player has been in and out of jail. Travis Kelce isn't going to come back and suddenly be not washed anymore. And I wouldn't say he was washed last season, but he definitely didn't look like himself. And then, the track record of paying elite running backs is not good. Like, you have someone like Kenneth Walker come in, and he is someone who has been a really good running back and sometimes a great running back in the regular season, and he had a historic playoff run. But this is someone who has also had his fair share of injury issues and his fair share of inconsistent seasons before. So I don't necessarily think that bringing in Kenneth Walker is going to suddenly solve all of Kansas City's issues. You also did get a little bit worse on defense and had to shed some players, for cap reasons here. So it's really going to depend on their draft here. So I do think Kansas City is going to look kind of similar to what they did last year. I think their defense is still going to have to carry them, but I don't know if their offense is suddenly going to turn it around just by adding Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, for me, I think kind of what you mentioned there. Their offensive line struggled last year. They had some injuries there. Rashid Rice is a great receiver. I think he's the one hit that they've had post Tyreek Hill, but he's had some off the field issues as well. Xavier Worthy hasn't really panned out to what they thought he would be. Travis Kelce is, what is he now, 35 at this point? He's 36, so he's even older. He'll be 37 this year. Definitely not the Travis Kelce he was a few years ago, nor would we expect him to be either. Kenneth Walker, I do think, is going to make their offense better, but ultimately for the Chiefs, we also have Patrick Mahomes coming off of a major injury. The reason why I'm more optimistic on the Chiefs is more or less because of my optimism in Patrick Mahomes than anything else. They still have some good players on defense. I still like the Chris Jones of the world. George Karlaftis is a stud. L'Jarius Sneed is a stud as well. But this is also a team that's getting pretty old pretty quick. And that's kind of with these type of franchises, we're kind of looking at the Warriors post 2022. It's the same thing where we're just going to kind of see the Chiefs get older and older and older until eventually this era of the Chiefs is over. Whether it's Andy Reid retiring or Travis Kelce retires, it feels like we're starting to see a fading dynasty with the Chiefs rather than a team that's going to come back out there and win multiple Super Bowls.
And it took the Patriots how many years to win a Super Bowl? So they won in was the last one they won 05 or 06?
05.
05, and then it took them all the way until 2014 to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they
that's
won.
a long time. So it's almost 9 years that it took the Patriots after winning 3 Super Bowls. So it's not like the Chiefs dynasty is over necessarily. You might see a different face outside of Andy Reid, just since Bill Belichick was a much younger head coach. But I don't necessarily think that the Chiefs are going to be the next New England Patriots here, because they haven't been able to figure it out on offense after losing Tyreek Hill the same way, and it hasn't looked as dynamic. And they had, pretty much one possessions games in every single game the year before last year, which is eventually going to turn around. So I think it's going to be somewhere more in the middle, like closer to 9 or 10 wins. But like the Patriots were a dynasty that spanned over 2 decades, but let's not forget they went 9 years without winning a Super Bowl. They still had an undefeated season, though. They still did have, the year where they lost to the New York Giants again in 2011, but it was still 4 years between those 2 Super Bowls as well. So we've seen dynasties before take a little bit of a hiatus, and I think the Chiefs' last Super Bowl was 2023 that they won.
2023, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, right around 2023. Don't sue me in the comments if I don't have the exact year right. But, it could still be about 3 or 4 more years before the Kansas City Chiefs figure it out. And the biggest difference between the Chiefs dynasty and the Patriots dynasty is Bill Belichick was a hell of a lot younger when he started with the Patriots than Andy Reid is with the Chiefs. Like, Andy Reid every single year, is this guy going to retire? Is this guy... he's a little bit of a risk for, you hate to say it, but a heart attack. So it's like, you don't.
He's had heart attacks.
He's had heart attacks before, so it's like you don't want to put that out there, but it's just the Kansas City Chiefs, it's not the same as the New England Patriots, but I feel like that's a lot more normal for the NFL. So I don't think they're going to win their division this year, because you look at a team like the Broncos. Well, the Broncos, I picked them to win 12 games last year, and that was about 3 wins over their total. And they end up going 13-4, and then the difference in the tiebreaker with them and the Patriots is this: the Patriots lost to the Raiders in Week 1. Week 1 is a little bit fluky, so they end up getting the number 1 seed there. Bo Nix gets injured, so this is a lot of what could have been for the Denver Broncos, and then you go out there, you add Jalen Waddle, so you're adding firepower to this team. You're adding more players on defense as well. You have another solid draft. So the Broncos, I do think, are going to come back and then defend the crown here in the West, because they also were a team that had a lot of close games, but they didn't really have too many explosive options on offense. So giving someone like Sean Payton, Jalen Waddle to play around with, I think is going to be a huge benefit to the Broncos, because they really just didn't have that one piece for Bo Nix that could blow the game open. And don't forget that, Bo Nix went toe-to-toe with Josh Allen and won.
And played better than Josh Allen.
He didn't turn the ball over at the end of the game. People are like, oh, Josh Allen got robbed by the refs again. I'm like, okay, well, the refs, didn't call a safety in the end zone, which would have immediately ended the game in overtime. So there's that. So don't tell me about the refs in the game where Bo Nix wasn't the one that turned the game over in the fourth quarter in overtime, where Josh Allen had 2 turnovers at the end of the game that cost his team the game. It's like Bo Nix played better than him. The Broncos outcoached the Buffalo Bills, which is to be expected. And when you have someone like Sean Payton, you can argue that he's the best coach in the division as well.
Yeah. Also, another big thing for Bo Nix is we've seen this countless times before, where year 3 is when they make their stride. We're entering year 3 with Bo Nix, and he gets his star receiver. Now, is Jalen Waddle the same as the Stephon Diggs of the world? Probably not. But I think with Bo Nix getting a Jalen Waddle to pair alongside Courtland Sutton, who is a very underrated receiver amongst the wide receiver crowds, they now have a good receiver core. Evan Ingram is a good tight end. The running back committee, I'm a little nervous about. J.K. Dobbins is always hurt. R.J. Harvey, I had high hopes with him out of the draft. I want to see him take that next step, but otherwise their offense should be good, but that's not the reason why I'm high on the Broncos. I'm high on them because they have the best defense, arguably in the AFC. Texans are probably contending there, but I mean, whether it's Alex Singleton, whether it's Nick Benito, Pat Surtain is still by no means a slouch. So they got players on defense that realistically we need Bo Nix to throw for 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 picks, and then maybe get a few on the ground. And this Broncos team is going to be right back where they were last year.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. Broncos did lose John Franklin Myers and Malcolm Roach, but they still have Nick Benito there to carry the load. And Nick Benito, I'm blanking on the name of their other edge rusher right now, but they had the fastest get-off rate in the league last year. I believe it's Cooper on the other edge.
Oh,
there.
Jonathan Cooper.
Jonathan Cooper. Yep. So they had the fastest get-off rate for the edge. That's not something you lose, especially in a tough place to play like Denver in December. So I think the Broncos will be fine, and they're going to be better on offense. And then that really just leaves us with the Chargers and the Raiders, which is kind of at this point, did the Chargers actually get better on offense? Is the real question.
I mean, their offensive line probably can't get any worse, I'm assuming. I like Omarion Hampton a lot. I think fantasy-wise he should be really great. But I think for them, my biggest concern with the Chargers is their receiver core, because right now their number one receiver is Ladd McConkey, who I think is probably better as a 2 or 3, as much as I love Ladd McConkey. Quentin Johnston, he had some flashes last year. He looked better than year 1, but nobody can say that Quentin Johnston is a successful draft pick for where other players were drafted ahead of him were, i.e. JSN, who they drafted ahead of him. And then defensively, I feel like their defense should be probably still a good team, but at the same time, Derwin James is now, 30? He's going to be 31 this year. And then Khalil Mack is a little bit older. They have a pretty old defense, so I do think their defense is still going to be good, but I do see regression there. And then now we have Justin Herbert Beer with a team that honestly doesn't look that much different from last year. Maybe their defense is a little worse. Chargers, like they are every year, they're going to be in the wild card mix, but they're not winning their division, and they're probably going to lose in the first round again. And we can expect that. And the only thing I ask is that Chargers fans just don't get overly optimistic.
Yeah. Expect your team to be 10-7, maybe make the playoffs, but yeah, after them losing the Jaguars game in the fashion they did a couple of years ago, I really do need to see it to believe it. And how long, like if the Chargers don't win a playoff game this year, how long are we riding it out with Jim Harbaugh? Like how long does this era keep continuing? Like one more year after this? Is this potentially, because they did keep Brandon Staley probably a year longer than they should have. So I do think if they don't win a playoff game this year, Jim Harbaugh probably has 1 year left with this team to turn it around.
Yeah, because we're in year 3 now with Jim Harbaugh, I believe. So in each year they've been a good team. They've had a great defense. That's the one thing that Jim Harbaugh does bring. But they didn't address anything offensively. If anything, for a team with a Tyreek Hill still available, and I know Tyreek Hill isn't Tyreek Hill of years before, but for a team that's running out there with Trey Harris as their third receiver, I don't know why the Chargers don't come calling for Tyreek Hill. I don't understand why the Chiefs don't come calling for Tyreek Hill. Heck, even the Broncos, if they want speed, I don't know why they don't go after Tyreek Hill. But Chargers, I'm expecting like 9-8 from them. And then the Raiders, we don't have any expectations for them, nor should we.
It doesn't matter. Anything they do that's positive is just a cherry on top for them and some optimism going in next year. I do think the Raiders will be better, though. I am cautiously optimistic about the Raiders. I do think coaching-wise, they do get a little bit better than they were last year. But we shall see.
Yeah, but let's get into their records here. Who do we want to start with?
Let's start with the Raiders. Why don't we?
All right. So with the Raiders, obviously we have Kirk Cousins, who's going to be the starter in Week 1. We're not going to see Fernando Mendoza, most likely this year. We got the Ashton Genties of the world. Number 1 receiver, Trey Tucker. Offensive line that's had some repairs there, but otherwise, Max Crosby stays on this team after an awkward trade this offseason. But I digress.
Clint
We
Kubiak
enter-
is the kid head coach too.
Yeah, new head coach Clint Kubiak, guy that a lot of people were high on in the coaching circles, a lot of opportunities there, but he takes over the helm after he had been. He's the son of Gary Kubiak, who had coached the Texans, had his experience with the Niners, with the Broncos, coached around a little bit, definitely qualified there. Raiders, we've kind of already given our speeches there, but how do we feel about just their head coach, I guess, as we enter through?
Yeah, I mean, he was the most coveted coordinator probably coming into the offseason, especially coaching. He was the offensive coordinator for Seattle, and people are like, wow, he did that with Sam Darnold. We definitely want that guy. And then he also, helped. I wouldn't say he made JSN, but he definitely helped him become the offensive player of the year. JSN, probably the best offensive player in football last year. To me, he should have been the MVP, to be honest. So I do think it is a up. And then if he can do if he can do for the tight ends on his team with Michael Mayer there, you have two monsters at tight end. If you can have him and then turn around Ashton Genty's career, have the best tight end duo, like I definitely think Clint Kubiak can at least make this team fun in the first year and then maybe a playoff team next year or the year after.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see how they start here. But week 1, they host the Miami Dolphins.
And they go win. Miami, not too optimistic, to be honest. A lot of good things happening in the city of Miami, but their football team, less than to be desired. They pretty much lost everyone.
Yeah, I agree. And then week 2, they go to LA to take on the Chargers.
To LA to take on the Chargers. I will give the Chargers the benefit of the doubt and then say that the Chargers win that game.
All right. And then week 3, they are going to New Orleans to take on Tyler Shuck and the Saints.
Tyler Shuck and the Saints. Yeah, I think New Orleans at home should be able to win that game.
All right. And then week 4, they are hoisting the Kansas City Chiefs.
Hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they beat the Chiefs. The Raiders have had some weird games with the Kansas City Chiefs in the Derek Carr era. Sometimes they can be fluky. So I do think they get a game off the Chiefs, and I say I'll take it earlier in the season. Might take the Chiefs a little bit to get going.
All right. And then week 5, they take on the Patriots.
Take on the Patriots, and they've also had a little bit of magic against the Patriots as well. They beat them last year, but I think the Patriots might want a little bit of revenge, so I'll take the Pats in that one.
All right, so they are now 2-3. They go to Buffalo, or I should say they hoist Buffalo to start their homestand against Josh Allen.
Yeah, probably be a lot of Bills fans there because Bills fans now hate their stadium, so I will take the Bills to win that home away from home game.
Yeah, only the Bills could fuck up getting a new stadium. Just want to start there. Week 7, they also hoist the Rams.
Also host the Rams. Brutal schedule. And yeah, I think the Rams
Patriots, Bills, Rams in a row. Actually, Chiefs, Patriots, Bills, Rams all in a row. That's brutal.
Yikes.
I don't think it gets any harder than that. And then it does get easier, though, thank God, because they get to go to East Rutherford against the interception-less Jets in Week 8.
And I think the Jets win that one.
Uh-oh. Jets get a win there. All right.
Cade Klubnik coming out
The
party.
Cade Klubnik show. And then Week 9, they go to San Francisco to take on the Niners.
Yeah, will San Francisco have a coach? Will they have a running back, a quarterback? We don't know. So, honestly, with that in mind, I will go with the Raiders to win that one. It's been a long time since they saw a win. It's been since Week 4, so I will take the Raiders to get their first win since Week 4.
All right, and then they get a bit of a tough stretch. They hoist the Seahawks.
Host the Seahawks. I think Clint Kubiak, he's going up against his former team there. I still have to pick Seattle. I can't do it.
Yeah, defending champs. It's going to be tough. And then they face the Broncos week 11
Where?
in Denver.
In Denver? I think Denver beats them in Denver. Dang. I had so much hope for the Raiders.
They have a kind of a tough schedule so far, and it does get a little bit easier. Week 12, they go to the Dog Pound and take on Shador.
Okay, and I think they should beat the Browns in the Dog Pound, right? Right? No Myles Garrett?
No Myles Garrett, but they have Jared Verse now, who's not
Oh,
Myles Garrett, but
terrifying.
hey, you know what? Jared Verse is not bad. He's a good player. Bye week in week 13, I think they win that game. And then,
I think maybe against the bye they tie, unfortunately.
yeah, there's got to be at least one tie. We've had a tie every season since we've been previewing our football show. Week 14, though, they go to the Chargers. Chargers did get the win in week 2. Do they sweep the Raiders?
I believe I picked the Raiders. Did I pick the Chargers in week 2?
You picked them in week 2.
Okay, so I do think that the Raiders will split with the Chargers, so I will take them to win that one, and then they go to 5-8, and then they should
And I would
rattle off
agree.
some wins and get some momentum going into next year.
Yeah, I honestly think like the Chargers and Raiders, they split no matter how good or bad either one of those teams are. And it being in week 14 when the Chargers probably need to get some wins, that's not surprising. Week 15 they go and hoist the Broncos.
Host the Broncos. Yeah, I think the Broncos, unfortunately, will sweep them.
And then it gets pretty easy after that. They hoist the great Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans. So 3 home games in a row.
3 home games in a row, and they don't go 6-7, but they do go 6-9.
All right. Which is still a funny number.
Everyone laughs.
And then this one, everybody laughs. And then
That's funny.
week 17, this is going to be a tricky game for you to pick, but they go to Arizona, which is only 4 hours away from Vegas, by the way. But could also be the Carson Beck show by then.
Ooh. Carson Beck? Yeah. They've won 2 games in a row. Let's not get over our skis here. So I will take the Cardinals to win that one. Jeremiah Love, you see that spin move in preseason?
Disgusting. He looks amazing. I'm excited for him. And then you had them beating the Chiefs in week 4, but now it's week 18. It's a flex game for the Chiefs. So I guess it depends on who we see then.
For the Raiders and the
Me-
Chiefs. Yeah, I'll take the Chiefs to win that one.
All right. So if I calculate the wins and losses, we got 1, 2,
6-11.
3, 4, 5, 6. 6-11. I think that's very fair for the Raiders. I think 6-11. If they go 6-11, that should be a successful season, ultimately.
Yeah, this is a brutal schedule, though. I mean, they play the West here, and then I think their gimme game. Well, no, they play the East as well. And I think the Jets could be surprisingly tough. And I did have the Jets beating them, so there's like a couple wins there. But I did have some upsets in there as well. So I do think 6-11 for the Raiders is very fair. Do you guys think I am crazy for that, or do you think they'll have more wins or less wins? Let's see what Vegas's over/under is for the Raiders.
What I predict for them is really their first 11 weeks is pretty brutal. I mean, you have all in a row, you have the Chargers, who were a playoff team last year, the Saints, who we predict to be a playoff team this year, the Chiefs, the Patriots, the Bills, the Rams, and then you face the Jets, but then it's the Niners, the Seahawks, and Broncos all in a row. So, like, really the only gimme game from week 2 on is the Jets.
Do you
So,
wanna know
I mean,
how
that's
good I am? Their over/under is 5.5. How about that? I'm literally.
How about them,
I
Raiders?
didn't look at the Vegas over/under before I picked the Raiders schedule here. I picked them to go 6-11. Their over/under is 5.5. How about that?
How about them Raiders? I can say my prediction, looking at the Raiders, I think the first half of the season is going to be a gauntlet. And maybe they don't go. I think that at that point that maybe they're 3-7, 3-8, whatever it may be. But Week 12 onward, you have the Browns, the Chargers, who I know are a playoff team, but a team you can never trust, and then Tennessee and Kansas and Arizona, plus Week 18, which is a flex game, which might not even matter at that point. So honestly, like I feel like Week 12 on, we could see them win 3 or 4 games to end the season. So I do think, as far as building momentum, it seems like the NFL schedulers are giving them breaks at the end of the season. So I think they'll rattle off most of their wins the second half.
Yeah,
From
and
what I
you
see
have
here.
Bowers, Mayer, Genty. The only issue with Bowers, though, is people are like, yeah, he's going to be a really good tight end, but he has had some issues staying on the field, especially when you're so big
Especially last
and
year.
explosive as him. We do need to see him play a full season this year. If he doesn't, I will be a little bit worried about him, and he might just need to see like a new trainer or nutritionist here. But that is our full preview for the Raiders. We have 3 teams left in the West here for the AFC. Let's go to the Chargers next, shall we? So we kind of went over the Chargers. They didn't necessarily improve too much on offense. Their offensive line can't really get worse, though. You had mentioned, though, you think their defense could age a little bit and potentially regress on that end. But they do bring in Mike McDaniels. So do you think Mike McDaniels actually helps this team?
Yeah, I think their offense should be better, but their defense should be worse. Because they did lose some players on defense. Derwin James is a year older. Khalil Mack, I believe, now is 35, so he's going to be a little bit older. So, I mean, a lot of these guys are old or they're guys who get hurt a lot. So, my concern is Khalil Mack is 35 now. He still was very good last year for them, and he's been effective for him. But, I mean, each year that you play in the NFL, I expect you to not be as good the following year. So, their defense should be worse, but I think their offense is better, which is going to result in them having potentially the exact same record.
Yeah, and I don't know. To quote Jerry Seinfeld, what do you think the deal is with Justin Herbert? Like, do you think he's just fine making his money, showing up to work, and he doesn't necessarily like winning isn't the end all be all for him? He's like a really talented quarterback. He's gonna get like another max contract based off his talent alone, but it's just there's just something like you can't put your finger on that isn't there. Like the Chargers haven't done him any favors either, but he's also, we've seen other quarterbacks do more with less than Justin Herbert, and Justin Herbert did blow a 27-point lead.
And he's had I mean, he had the that Texans game too, where he looked horrible. So I think the thing with Justin Herbert is he's a very good quarterback, but if we're talking like top 10 quarterbacks in the league, Justin Herbert cannot be top 10 for the simple fact that he doesn't have the accolades. Sure, he has the numbers, but when your record all time is 500, that doesn't impress me. I don't care what your arm angles are. I don't care how deep you can throw the ball. I know how talented you can be, but at the same time, like you need to win playoff games, and your team is good enough that that you can win a playoff game. So if you don't win a playoff game this year, then I don't think you can just point at Jim Harbaugh, who has been successful everywhere he's gone. So this is kind of, I don't think this is a make or break it year because Justin Herbert's still going to be here next year either way. But as far as respect in the NFL, like now we're entering into year 7 at this point. We need to see you win a playoff game at this point. So that's my sentiment with the Chargers. Like I said before, they're going to be in the wild card hunt this year. So 9-8, 10-7 is what I predict.
All right, week 1 we have Madison Beer versus Abela Danger. I mean, we have Justin Herbert versus Carson Beck with the Cardinals and Chargers. If Carson Beck starts.
And I think the Chargers should beat the Cardinals in week 1.
Okay, they should beat the Cardinals. I love the confidence. And then next game they have the Raiders. I believe we had them winning that game as well.
Yeah, and the Chargers are going to fuck it up later in the season, so I'm going to take them beating the Raiders now.
Speaking of teams that might fuck it up, they go to Buffalo to play the Bills in the Bills' brand new stadium that everybody loves and think is great, and there's definitely no bad seats in the house.
Yeah, no bad seats in the house. I don't know how you fuck up the most obvious part of establishing a new stadium. Only Buffalo. Not to dunk on Buffalo too much, but I think, yeah, the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, Buffalo Bills. They should get their win. I think this is their first game of the season too. in their new stadium, so I take Buffalo there.
I think they play the Lions, actually. That's the first game in the new stadium.
It's probably week 2 then. Yeah, so either way, new stadium, everyone's all excited, and Buffalo's the better team, so I'll take Buffalo there.
All right, and then they go from Buffalo to Seattle.
Seattle did lose a lot of players. I almost want to pick them. I'll take them beating Seattle in week 4. They have a good enough defense. They have a good enough offense. Seattle might be having a Super Bowl hangover. I can talk myself into them beating Seattle in week 4.
All right, very serious business. The week after, first matchup versus the reigning AFC West champion Denver Broncos in LA.
In LA, that's a tough one. I think they're going to split with Denver. So I'll take them beating the Broncos now. Come later, we'll see how that pans out.
All right, Chargers coming out hot. 4-1 only loss is in Buffalo against that great view in their stadium, and then they go to Kansas City to play the Chiefs.
Yeah, and they always play close against the Chiefs. I'll take them to split, but they've won 4 straight now. I do think their schedule will get a little bit tougher, so I will take them to start in Arrowhead. They fall to the Chiefs.
They fall to the Chiefs there. Okay, so now they are 4-2, and then the next week they go to LA to face. Well, they stay in LA, but the Rams are the home team.
Yeah, but this is like when the Yankees and Mets face off. Like the Yankees are the New York team. In LA, the Rams are the LA team. So big brother versus little brother, who am I going to take? Big brother always wins. So I'm taking the Rams.
All right, and then after staying in LA for a away game, they stay in LA for a home game and play the Houston Texans.
Look, certain teams, they just own you, and I feel like the Texans, with how nasty that defense is, Will Anderson is probably in Justin Beer's nightmares. He probably has to cuddle up to Mrs. Herbert at this point, Mrs. Beer. So I think we see a 3-game skid from this Chargers team after starting off so hot.
And then it doesn't get any easier because the next week they go to Baltimore. And it's a night game. Ooh, this is a Monday night game in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson, primetime.
Primetime Lamar, that's a hard tie to beat against. Yet again, Justin Herbert does perform well in primetime too. That being said, though, I like the Ravens better, so I'm going to take the Ravens.
All right.
He's had some good primetime games. Herbert has.
Yeah, he's hit or miss. And then so they're 4-5 now after starting 4-1. What happened, guys? And then thankfully they go back to LA to face the Jets, potentially the Cade Klubnik led Jets. That's going to be a tongue twister all season.
Yeah, Cade Klubnik. We're going to just call him Cade in this case. They should beat the Jets, right?
They should beat the Jets.
They should beat the Jets.
We'll call him the Clubber. Yeah, we're not going to call him that.
We're just gonna call him
that.
We're gonna call him C.
we're gonna call him C. Yeah, we're gonna call him CK. And then they host the Patriots in LA, and the Patriots and Chargers. It's always an interesting matchup, right?
Right. Yeah. Let's go back. I went back 25 years for this record, but let's go back 40 years for this record. The Chargers are 9-22 against the Patriots the last 40 years. So yes, I understand the Patriots were great in the 2000s and 2010s, but let's go back 40 years. They are 9-22 against the Patriots. Certain teams, for whatever reason, cannot beat any other teams. The Patriots always own the Chargers, so I am taking the Patriots here.
All right, so they fall to 5-6, back below 500 after starting 4-1, and then they go to Tampa Bay to play the Buccaneers. This is a 1:00 game though, so solid
1:00 game
matchup.
Yeah, I think the Chargers, they start to piece things together and give their fans some false hope.
All right, so 6-6, and then they go to Vegas to face the Raiders. I believe I had them splitting with the Raiders, so.
What does that give us? What does it give us?
A record of 6-7. Let's go. Everybody laugh. The joke is still funny.
Everybody loves
You
it.
You did it too.
6.
You keep saying I'm doing it on purpose, but it just happens organically.
We're going to have a lot of
still
6-7s this year.
6-7.
It never ends.
everyone the NFL is going to be 6-7. And then after that, they go back home to face the 49ers. And this is Thursday Night Football.
Thursday Night Football, the Niners, by this point, their team every year the last 5 years has gotten eviscerated with injuries. So I think the Chargers beat them in Week 15.
Okay. So now they are 7-7. Lucky number 7-7. Let's see if they can get to that 10-7 record here. After that, though, they go to Miami to face the Dolphins.
And they win that game.
All right. And then they host the Kansas City Chiefs. I believe you have them splitting and losing an Arrowhead. You still feel that way?
Yeah, I think they do take on. I think they win, whether it's Week 6 or Week 17 that they beat the Chiefs. Either way, for this, I'll say they beat them in Week 17.
All right. 9-7 playing potentially for a wild card spot or the division here. This is a TBD game against the Denver Broncos in Denver in January. Oh, tough.
And this is one where I can already see it now with my crystal ball, where if they win, they're in. If they lose, they miss out on the postseason. They face off against their evil rival. It goes into overtime, and all they need to do is just kick a field goal to win it, and then it gets blocked, and Nick Benito runs it in for the touchdown, and the Chargers miss the postseason. So the Broncos win.
Yeah, they better.
That's what I
hope
think
that
happened.
The Broncos have already locked up a bye at this point.
We better see Jared Stidham. That's all I'm going to say. We better see a Jared Stidham sighting in Week 18. But I mean, Week 18, who really cares? If they're going to be 9-8 or 10-7, I think 9-8 is probably what I see here.
All right. So 9-8. Let me take a look. What is the Chargers over under? Let's see. So the Chargers over under is set at 9.5 wins. Wow, we didn't even look at that again before. I mean, the Raiders one, we didn't look at it before. I said 6 wins. It was 5.5. You say 9 wins and is currently set at 9.5. So a little bit less bullish here. So there's some betting odds that have them at 10.5 wins. Some have them at 9.5. I think that 9.5 is definitely more accurate. But wow, on par with Vegas. It's almost like we should be cooking the books.
I will say with the Chargers, saying that they're going to be 9-8 or 10-7 every year. That's one of those things that's like back in the 2010s, we could say, oh, I think the Patriots are going to be really good this year, or I think the Jets are going to be really bad. Like saying the Chargers are going to be 9-8, 10-7, I can make that prediction for 30 consecutive years, and I'm going to be right 30 years in a row. So, like, I don't think I'm that special in this particular example, because that's how the Chargers always are.
Yeah, it's like saying that the Bills won't make the Super Bowl. It's like, whoa, courageous.
What? Crazy.
But we have the Broncos next. We did a pretty in-depth deep dive about the Broncos, if you want to scroll back to the beginning. But we have the Broncos and the Chiefs left here. I definitely think the Broncos should be better talent-wise. It'll be tough to go, 13-4 again this year. But adding Jalen Waddle, you still have Cooper and Benito on the edge. They had the fastest get-off rate in the league last year. Denver's always a tough place to play. Did you know there's altitude there? And then they also still have Sean Payton. Look for RJ Harvey and Bo Nix to take that next step. Bo Nix probably, he's going into year 3, but it's like one of those players he's going into year 3, but it feels like he could retire in 4 or 5.
Yeah. So the Broncos, Bo Nix's 3rd year, but could also be his 13th. We don't know. But Monday Night Football to start it at Arrowhead in Kansas City. What a start. What a start is all I'm going to say.
Right now my gut instinct is telling me Chiefs in that one. I don't know why, but my first reaction is that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win that one, especially in Arrowhead. Think Mahomes, they'll be excited to come back there. They don't know how much longer they're going to be in that stadium. So, yeah, I will go with the Broncos to fall in week 1 versus the Chiefs.
Alrighty. But then they host Trevor Bank and those pesky Jaguars from Jacksonville in week 2.
Yeah, and I think they win and they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 2.
And then they also host the Rams the following week.
Host the Rams. That's a tough one. I think the Rams win that one though.
All right, so they start 1-2. And then week 4, they go to San Francisco to take on the Niners.
Yeah, I think they go back to 500, beat San Francisco.
All right, so 2-2. Week 5, they don't go too far. They only go about 8 hours south to the Chargers to take on the Chargers.
Take on the Chargers, and then you had the Chargers winning that game, so I will stick with that. And then they go 2-3.
All right. And it is a little bit of a tough stretch for them, I guess, the beginning of the season, because week 6, they go to Seattle for a Thursday night game.
Yeah, and that is the what could have been if we made the Super Bowl. So let's go in there and kick their ass, and we'd be like, well, if Bo Nix didn't hurt, we probably would have won the Super Bowl, which is very possible. So I do think they'll have that in the back of their mind, and will be motivated to win this game. So I do think they win that one, get back to 500.
All right. And then they have a tough game in Arizona in week 7 to take on Carson Beck and the boys in Arizona.
Yeah, Carson Beck, Jacoby Brissett, and the boys, whoever it's going to be. But I do think it is going to be the Broncos that come out on top in that one.
All right. And then let's see here. So then week 8, they have their home game against the Chiefs. They faced them in week 1. They fell to them. Week 8, looking for vengeance.
Yeah, and I do think they beat the Chiefs in the second game there, and then they move to 5-3, start to really find their groove here. Sometimes, you have a good season. Might take Bo Nix a little bit. He's also recovering from an injury as well, so got to get moving and grooving again.
And we're in November now, so this is when good teams start to be great. Week 9, depending on what happened the week prior, they take on the Carolina Panthers in Carolina.
Yeah, I think they should win. They should win that one, right? Right?
They should. Bye week in week 10, so right in the middle of the season, kind of like where that bye week is. And then they take on the Raiders in week 11.
Yeah, I think they beat the Raiders in that game, and then they moved to 7-3. So now they're on wow. They have all their hard games front loaded, and then they just get cupcakes at the end of the year. Wow.
Oh, you have no idea. Week 12 at Pittsburgh on Black Friday.
Ooh.
Kind of like that matchup, actually.
I like that matchup a lot. I do think they beat Pittsburgh, though. As interesting as I think Pittsburgh should be, whether it is Aaron Rodgers or their new star quarterback to be in Drew Aller, I think they win that one.
Alrighty, and then it gets so much tougher for them because week 13 they have to hoist the pesky Dolphins. Malik Willis, Malik Washington, probably another guy named Malik that's on that team as well.
So they get like the Rams, the Chiefs, the Seahawks, all those teams at the beginning of the season. Then it's just cupcake at the end of the year.
I'm going to start calling the Dolphins the Malik Dolphins because Malik Willis, Malik Washington. I'm trying to see if there's any other guys named Malik, but I feel like this is the Malik Dolphins at this point. But I digress. Week 14, they go to East Rutherford to take on those pesky Jets, maybe in a snow game.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
It's not even. We're not even done yet. I'm telling you.
Jesus
we're not
Christ.
done.
Yeah, they beat the Jets. Give me a break.
So that's what 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're 7 consecutive wins now. And then they go to Vegas to take on the Raiders.
What? Oh my God! Who made the schedule?
So from week 7 on, it's Arizona, Kansas City, Carolina, Vegas, Pittsburgh, Miami, New York, Vegas again. All of those they should maybe one, maybe the Chiefs, or maybe the Panthers if they're frisky enough. But yeah, that's easy. And then week 16, Christmas game, they take on the Bills. Rematch.
I think they need to lose to them in the regular season so they can beat them in the playoffs. So I will have the Bills winning. Wait, are they in Buffalo?
No, they're in They're in Denver.
Oh, if they're in Denver, yeah, I'll take them to win that game, actually.
Okay, so they're riding high.
That's a
And
perfect
then
game because everyone's going to be like, they've won 7 or 8 games in a row, but look at who they played. And then they're going to get Buffalo. Like, Buffalo's going to come in there and kick their ass. And then, yeah, Buffalo is going to be a very big question mark on defense next year because you fired your defensive mastermind. So if it's in Denver, yeah, that'll be a tough one.
no doubt. And then week 17, it's a flex game, but they go to New England for that AFC title rematch.
I will have the Patriots winning that one. I think they'll lose either to New England or Buffalo there. So as of right now, I will have New England winning. Hopefully Drake May's shoulder is still in place and his offensive line is still alive. But yeah, so I'll have them dropping to 12-4.
12-4. And then they have their game against the Chargers in week 18. At this point, it doesn't seem like it really matters if they win the next game or not. Same goes with the Chargers, but at this point, they end the season against the Chargers at home.
Yep, so I'll have them finishing it out and going 13-4. Again.
Not bad. Yeah, I feel like they have like the first 6 games are pretty tough. I mean, you got Kansas City, Jacksonville, LA, San Francisco, Chargers, Seattle, all through the first 6 weeks. So I honestly think like the first 6 weeks, if they can leave there 3-3, like our records predict, then after that, from week 6 to week 15, it's cupcakes all throughout. Yeah, they had to face the Chiefs. Yeah, they got to face the Steelers. But other than that, it's teams that we expect to play drafting in the top 5.
Yeah, and so their over-under is typically set here. Looks like 9.5. So they went 14-3 last year. So I have them at a game worse. I do think they will be a game better, but like Vegas doesn't know what to do with Kansas City, the Chargers, because they're both around 10.5 wins, and they have the Broncos actually a little bit worse there. But like it's a tough home field, and they have a really easy middle of the schedule. So I do think as long as they beat Buffalo or New England, like I had them starting out 2-3, and then they having them go on an absolute run. So maybe there's another loss in there. Last year I had them going 12-5, and they went 14-3. So I do think 13-4, adding Jalen Waddle, it's not unrealistic for the Broncos. Am I crazy? In the comments, let me know if you think the Broncos will be worse next year or if you think they'll be a little bit better. The only thing I can think of is Bo Nix's health will be a concern, but I'm picking this on the assumption that they'll be healthy. So this is just if Bo Nix is fully healthy throughout the year. So like, is 13-4 crazy? Because I look at it and I'm like, wow, they went 14-3 last year, coming back in the same division as the Chiefs, going 13-4. But you get the Raiders twice. Like I even had them splitting with the Chargers too.
Yeah. And they might very well not split with the Chargers.
And
they might
Chiefs.
very
Then
well
I had them
sweep
losing
them.
to the Rams. I had them beating Seattle, beating Buffalo, but losing to the Patriots. So you flip one of those wins, maybe it's 12-5. But I think 11 to 13 wins for this team is realistic.
You had them beating the Niners, and maybe the Niners beat them.
Maybe.
You have them beating the Seahawks. Maybe the Seahawks beat them. But Seattle also is a team that coming off a Super Bowl and they've had a few players go. I don't think it's possible. I think Seattle should regress naturally because of it. But like I mentioned, like week 7 to week 15, you're dealing with the Cardinals, who's going to be picking in the top 5. Carolina, who is by no means a team that you're worried about going into it. You have the Raiders, who are going to be picking in the top 5. The Dolphins, who are going to be picking probably first overall. The Jets, who are probably picking in the top 5. You have the Raiders twice also. So it's like, I mean, the Steelers and the Chiefs and the Panthers are the only teams that are maybe playoff teams that you face in that stretch. And honestly, the Panthers, they're only a playoff team because they're in the South.
Yeah.
And no other reason.
And they signed
So I don't think it's crazy.
edge rusher. Like they signed like one of the best edge rushers they could, like from Philadelphia, but he's also someone that's been inconsistent. So maybe there's like a bad loss here or there, but like I can easily argue this case if anyone wants to debate me about it, and I feel pretty good about this 13-4 record here. So it'll be interesting to see, but this is a wild schedule. What the hell?
Especially
I'm
when we
interested-
compare it to the Raiders. The Raiders' schedule was so much worse.
Yeah.
So that's a brutal schedule for the Raiders. But for the Broncos, I think 12-5, 13-4. I think I would argue with somebody if they said they should go at 11-6. I think 12-5 for the Broncos is, I would stamp that on right now.
Yeah, I would say anything below that should be a disappointment.
For sure, especially with how good that defense is. And you have Sean Payton, you have year 3 Bo Nix, you added Jalen Waddle, so their offense should be more dynamic. That was their biggest problem last year. They were 13-4. They had a lot of ugly games. They had a lot of one-score games, but their offense should move better now that they have somebody that can open the field up a little bit for them.
Yeah.
So,
Bo Nix is
I like
kind of
where
like
they are.
Eli Manning with mobility too. He's got
Yeah,
like a little
exactly.
bit of that in him where he'll turn it over, but go into Buffalo and beat Josh Allen,
And he's
not
got
be
the
the one
fourth
to turn it
quarter.
over.
In the fourth quarter, Bo, I mean, all those fourth quarter comebacks, they had the Giants game where they came back from 15 points down in 4 minutes to beat them again, last year against the Giants. So, like, yeah, the Broncos they're a frisky team, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and then we have the Chiefs schedule. So we have that Monday night game starting out for you. I had the Chiefs winning that game. Do you agree with that still?
Yeah, I just feel like Monday Night Football, Patrick Mahomes coming back from injury, storyline wise, it makes sense that the Chiefs win this one.
All right, and then after that, they host Sunday Night Football, probably one of the worst Sunday Night Football matchups of all time. Daniel Jones versus Patrick Mahomes in Arrowhead.
This is week 2 and they're already pulling this bullshit on us. Come on. Yeah, they beat the Colts.
They beat the Colts, okay. And then after that, they go to Miami.
Yep, they won that game.
Okay. After that, they go to Las Vegas to play the Raiders.
I personally think they're going to sweep the Raiders, so I take them. Did you have the Raiders week 4? I think you had them.
I had them
You had the Raiders beating.
splitting. Yeah, I had the Raiders. Let me see.
I feel like the Chiefs are going to beat them week 4, but lose in week 18. So I
think
guess
that's what
either
I
way.
had as well. Something like that. I had
Yeah.
them splitting. So beat the Raiders there, and then the Chargers go to Kansas City after that.
And I forgot what I predicted there. I know the Chargers. I had them. This is an Arrowhead, and I had the Chiefs beating them in Arrowhead, so I'll keep with that. So 5-0 to start that's kind of insane, actually.
Okay. So it seems like they have the inverse version of the Broncos schedule here, and they get all their easy games at the beginning of the year. And then after that, they go to Seattle to face the Seahawks.
This is where I think. I mean, they're 5-0 to start. I think maybe a little bit better than they should be. Seahawks still have a really great defense. I mean, they have Devon Witherspoon there, and obviously a lot of those great guys still returning there. So I'm going to take them falling to Seattle.
All right. They fall to Seattle, and then they go to Denver, which I had Denver winning. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think week 1 makes sense for them to win. They should split with Denver, especially in Arrowhead too.
Okay. So now they are 5-2 after the Broncos are 4-3 here. So it's starting to flip the script a little bit here. But after they go to Denver, they host the Jets.
And they're going to beat the Jets. No doubt about it.
Right. I don't know. Maybe a good Bible study before that game. You never know. And then they go to Atlanta to face the Falcons.
You know what? There's going to be one of these games that they lose they shouldn't. We saw them lose to Matt Ryan's Colts. We saw them lose to Aiden O'Connell, not throwing a pass in the second half. So there's always one Chiefs game. I'm picking them losing to the Falcons. And if we saw the Falcons last year, all the teams that they beat were teams that, because of them losing to the Falcons, they didn't make the postseason. So I'm actually going to take them losing to the Falcons, surprisingly.
Yeah, so all the West gets their gimme game against the South this year. So I think like the Chargers got the Bucks, the Broncos got the Panthers, and then the Raiders must have had what team is left?
Saints.
The Saints, yeah. And honestly, they got the hardest one. So rip Raiders. And then, fuck me, I guess. And then they host the Cardinals after that.
Yeah, They're gonna be the Cardinals.
All right. So now they are 8-3, and then they go to Buffalo. This is Thursday Night Football on Thanksgiving.
We know how this goes. We've watched football long enough, right? We know
They
exactly
lost
what's about to
Buffalo in
happen.
the regular season, and then they beat them in the playoffs.
Thanksgiving, and they're going to the new stadium that everybody hates. Yeah, this is prime Buffalo Bills football right there.
Yep, going to the new stadium. Definitely no bad views in that Bills stadium. And then after that, they go to the Rams. Whoa, this is a tough stretch upcoming here.
Coming off a loss, Andy Reid's record's pretty undeniable, so I'm going to have them beating the Rams following that loss.
Okay. So they beat the Rams and they go 9-4, and then they go to Cincinnati after that. So they have a 3-game road stretch of going to Buffalo, to LA, and then to Cincinnati.
And I think also in Week 14, assuming Joe Burrow's healthy and assuming that the Bengals have woken up at this point, I do think the Bengals have a weird advantage over the Chiefs. I don't know if the records maybe agree with that there, but I think Joe Burrow has the edge against Mahomes head-to-head historically, so I'm going to take Joe Burrow to beat him.
Okay, and then after that, they go back to Arrowhead after a 3-game road trip on Sunday Night Football and host the New England Patriots.
Oh, that's a tough one. Monday Night Football, Patriots. This is in Arrowhead?
Yeah, this is in Arrowhead. What's your first instinct say though?
My first instinct says the Patriots win. But it is Arrowhead. That's a tough stadium to play in. December, I feel like it'd be tougher if they were playing in Gillette, though. My gut, I'm kind of on a coin toss here. What's their current record at this point?
9-5.
9-5. They beat the Patriots then.
Okay, so they go 10-5 here. And then they host the 49ers, or what's left of them.
They should probably beat the Niners.
Okay. And then so they are 11-5, and then they go to LA to face the Chargers.
And the Chargers, did the Chargers beat them in Week 6? Did I have them beating the Chargers or losing to them?
I believe you had them beating them at home, so they would lose to them here, because we had the Chargers winning, and then they lose to the Broncos in their last week.
Okay. All right. So the Chargers, I think the Chargers realistically probably beat them in Week 6, but Week 17 in this scenario.
Okay. And then, so they would be 10-6, and then they host the Raiders to finish
And
the
then,
year.
Yeah, and I think they probably win that game. If there's postseason implications and seeding on the line, they beat the Raiders.
Yeah, and I had the Raiders losing that game as well. So they are a wild card team at 11-6. So the AFC West, as we have it right now, we have the Broncos at 13-4, the Chargers, or let's go in order. We have the Broncos at 13-4, the Chiefs at 11-6, the Chargers at 9-8, and the Raiders at 6-11.
That's perfect. That's pretty much exactly. I mean, I think the Chiefs 11-6 is exactly where I would have them. The Chargers, maybe they're 10-7, but 9-8, 10-7, and then the Raiders at 6-11. That's a pretty bullish start for the Raiders. I think we nailed this, to be completely honest. I think that's exactly how this division's going to go.
Yeah, and their over/under on Vegas is, let me see, the Chiefs over/under. I believe it was 10.5 though.
Yeah, I know it's pretty high compared to the rest of the league.
Yeah, the sports books have it at 10.5. So yeah, we are right on the money pretty much for every single team here, except for the Broncos. The Broncos are the outlier where we have them higher, but we also had them higher last year. I don't understand why the Broncos are so low. I get they had a lot of close games last year, but they should technically be better on offense this year. So I'm definitely interested. This is going to be probably one of the weirdest divisions in the NFL next year, to be honest, because we don't.
I love that when they do the schedules each year, you can tell when you go through them what storylines they're going to try to make. Like, I don't think, is the NFL rigged? No, but I think there's storylines that they're trying to tell us. And when I look at the Chiefs schedule, the fact that they start, yes, they face Denver in week 1, but the Colts, the Dolphins, the Raiders, and then the Chargers, who they always beat up on right away, those are all games that they win. I think we could see them realistically, the first 5 games being 4-1 or 5-0 potentially. And then it's really that middle stretch when the Broncos are going to be facing cupcakes. It's the opposite for the Chiefs. I mean, from week 7 to week 17, they're going to be facing all teams that are either in the playoff mix or teams that we expect to be very good this year, outside of the Jets and the Raiders, ultimately, and the Cardinals. It's like, that's it at that point. Week 6 on, they're facing a gauntlet, to be frank, to be honest.
Do you think that's the NFL trying to give the Chiefs some momentum at the beginning of the year, so maybe they have some like confidence to go into those games against those good teams here? Because like a stretch where it's going to be Bills, Bengals, Rams, Patriots all in a row. I mean,
And even
that's
the
4
Niners,
Super
too.
Bowl even the Niners. That's 4 Super Bowl contenders and potentially a very good playoff team at the worst. The Bills probably won't be a Super Bowl contender, but you have the Niners in there, you have the Patriots in there, the Rams, and the Bengals. If the Bengals are fully healthy, I'm like,
That's a gauntlet right there. And they could ultimately go 2-4 in that stretch, and I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, and 3
Especially
of
with
them are on
how-
the road.
Especially with the way that Allen and Burrow go head-to-head against Mahomes historically. Josh Allen always beats him in the regular season. And Joe Burrow, I think, is like 5-2 against Burrow all time, or against Mahomes all time, if my records say otherwise. I know he beat him
Yeah, we have Google.
both
so.
times in the postseason, and then he beat him. He lost the third time, but he started
He's
off
3
like
and 2.
4-0, 3-2, and then does that include postseason too?
Yep. So it includes they're 1-1 in the regular season, and then Burrow is 2-1 in the playoffs.
Okay. For some reason, it feels like maybe it's because all those games have been so close too. Like I feel like head-to-head, honestly, Burrow versus Mahomes is sometimes better than Allen versus Mahomes.
You want to know the score? So first time they meet regular season, Bengals win 34-31 in 2022, and then the Bengals win 27-24. Was that having comments of field goal win? And then regular season 2022, the Bengals win 27-24. Don't shoot
Another
me.
field goal.
In the regular season in 2022, they faced them in January, and then in 2022, they faced them in the playoffs in December. So they faced them 3 times in a year, and the Bengals won all 3. And then the Chiefs beat them the last 2 times, but when the Chiefs beat them in the AFC Championship game, it was 23-20 in a sus refed game, to put it lightly.
Yeah.
And later, the Chiefs defeated them 26-25. So every single time they
Okay.
play, it's a 1 possession game.
So across 5 games, their plus-minus differential is 4. -4 technically for the Chiefs, but I mean the point differential of 4 against the Bengals, and I know we've seen some games against the Bills where one or the other kind of takes care of business there. So honestly, the Bengals and Chiefs is probably one of the more underrated rivalries. Not that anybody's discounting Mahomes and Burrow, but those games are always nail biters. So that's going to be a great game, and that's not even a primetime game. Like, what are we doing, NFL?
Colts
The fact
and Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. We previewed the primetime games and kind of rated. We went through Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, and Sunday Night Football. And the first one that jumped out to me, I'm like, Daniel Jones and Patrick Mahomes on primetime.
and not Mahomes and Burrow. Like, this is week 14, and I know we've already gone through this before, but I need to see the primetime game for this. This is going to be, I mean, Bills and Packers is cool, but we're talking 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league going head-to-head, and your primetime game is Jordan Love versus Josh Allen. Still going to be a good game, but Monday Night Football is Jags and Steelers.
What?
Monday Night Football is Jags and Steelers, but you can't have Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. We have to watch that on the 4 o'clock slate? No, that's some bullshit.
Well,
a
at least
horrible
it
game.
won't be Tony Romo.
Yeah.
It'll be JJ Watt.
That's cool.
That's another thing we missed is since you left is Tony Romo's body cam, and then how honestly, like, I walked away from his body cam being like, oh, Tony Romo seems like a very nice guy.
Yeah. I honestly looked at that and I'm like, okay, well, I don't think he didn't look that drunk to me, honestly, and he seemed very respectful, and honestly, I don't really know why he was arrested, frankly. He was just like, hey, I got to see my grandmother a couple hours away. Like, that was it. So I really don't understand why he got arrested and why the body cam got released. I felt like the cop was more in the wrong than Tony Romo.
Yeah, and we'll never know because he didn't do a breathalyzer. It does make you pause when the network is asking him to step away. But I do think the network asking him to step away is a combination of him being one of the lowest rated by fans to listen to, and then they automatically had JJ Watt who they could plug in. So you kind of knock out two birds with one stone. It's like, well, Tony Romo has kind of regressed in the booth. Fans don't seem to like him, so this is kind of an excuse just to kind of quietly make him disappear after this. But I do think, I'm not a fan of his commentating either, but like after that body cam, like he doesn't really look drunk there. So you have a lot of people like, oh, you're just fine with people like driving under the influence, and like he looked like maybe he had maybe 2 or 3 beers, but he didn't even look like super glossy. He didn't slur any of his words. He was super like calm the entire time. And then they're trying to make him do all these physical movements when he like has back pain. It's like he's been beat up from an NFL career. All these guys have knee issues, lower back issues. Probably has some like bulging discs.
Yeah, and Tony Romo had a few season-ending injuries too in his career, so it's not uncommon for that either. And they like asked him like, hey, is he concussed? He's like, well, not right now, but I've been concussed probably 50 times in my career minimum. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think he was in the wrong there. I mean, drinking and driving, whatever. Nobody's ever done it before, so whatever.
Yeah, it takes it's 3 DUIs in Texas before it's criminal. But if you get caught with 4 grams of weed, now look out.
Look out, not
Did
gummies.
you see that?
Yeah, with Texas, it's like they banned gummies, right?
They banned like all vapes and smokables, and then the only thing you can buy now is like Delta 9 gummies, and they
Which is
banned
trash.
like THCA, and like all the like variant strains of it, and then they like criminalized all weed a lot more and essentially raised the limit for it. So it's like I get like how you feel about it. It's just so hypocritical. People will be like, well, yeah, weed smells in public. I'm like, okay, yeah, so arrest people and put them in jail for it. Like maybe like a fine at most, but the fact that we're talking about like criminality now when alcohol is a thing and is way more dangerous. It's like people talk about like, well, people aren't productive and stoners are lazy. I'm like, okay. And it's better if you're
And alcoholics are productive?
Alcoholics are productive? Like, are you kidding me?
Pounding
like,
a six-pack in front of the TV? Like, give me a break. You're acting like as if fucking alcoholics come on to become our great scholars of the world. Like, give me a fucking break, dude. If somebody wants to smoke
to
weed...
kill a family of 4 in a car. Like, please, tell me.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's so backwards. And alcohol is way more detrimental to your body than what weed is. I just think... Texas is going in the wrong direction with that stuff. Just let people smoke, take their taxes, and let everyone enjoy their weed in peace. Like what Colorado did for my road trip. Colorado does it great.
And it's
Colorado,
better for like pain management and PTSD than like it's better than like taking Advil or something, or someone who has like IBS
or
and
prescription
needs it for
pills.
their stomach. It's like way better for you than taking like some of the other options. So I don't know.
Yeah. But I will say I did go to Colorado. I had my road trip. That's why we were out for 2 weeks, maybe 3. But I went from Phoenix to Moab, Moab to Denver, Denver to Kansas City to Chicago, Chicago to Pittsburgh, and then finally Pittsburgh to New Hampshire. And I feel like the only way I can talk about the road trip is if I go in order. So Friday, I got out of work at 12, headed right to Moab. Stopped in Sedona. You know Angel very well. You spent a couple years with her.
Legend.
Legend. I put her paw print in Sedona in October of last year. And so periodically I've like gone back there to see if the paw print's still there. And I've checked now 3 times, and each time it's untouched in perfect condition. So I did it before I left, and her paw print still looks good. I'll come back there in April and check it out again to see if it's still there. But Angel's there in Sedona, soaking up the sun and Not quite 110 in Sedona, but it's probably 100 degrees there for the next month at least. Went to Monument Valley. So Monument Valley, beautiful drive. I don't know if you went through that on your road trip or not, but it's the classic. When you think of the desert, that's where they shot some of the John Wayne movies. They have Forrest Gump in there as well. So like you've seen Monument Valley before. It's like the stereotypical desert. And that was mainly my first drive. Yeah, that's Monument Valley. Beautiful, like one of those things. Yeah, that's the exact road I drove down. Beautiful. I wish. Beautiful drive. Utah and Colorado. I would say my three favorite states I drove through were Colorado, Utah, and Arizona. Those are my three favorites. And then after I went to Moab, I stayed there for like pretty much just slept there, woke up, hit a diner, and then left. The drive from Arches to Colorado, or to Denver in this case, is probably the most beautiful drive I've ever had, to be completely honest. We stopped in, like, you see these rocks. It's essentially everything that I liked about my Arizona drives, but with water. I think water's pretty cool, personally. But, I mean, you have these giant rock sculptures. You have the red rocks in the back. There's a lot of green. These beautiful water. You're driving by, and you just see these, like, crows just come down and swoop into the water. It's just, like, breathtaking. This is Arches right here. But, like, when you're driving through it, even if you're not I didn't get to go to the park because I was strapped for time. I had the Rockies game that day. But even just driving through it, you just have these giant, I don't even know what kind of rock that is, but just these giant red rocks that pretty much engulf your view while you're driving. It's breathtaking. And then Colorado, I went to all the ballparks. So I went to Coors Field, I went to Kauffman, Wrigley, and then eventually PNC Park. Coors Field, when I was in Denver, my experience at Denver is that kind of like with Phoenix, it's like it's one of those cities that it's not the highlight of the state at all. Like, I think Denver's a solid city. I'm not going to say that Denver's a bad city. It's just a city, like, when I was there, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't live here. I wouldn't want to live in Denver, most likely. They have a lot of homeless people there. It was very hot there, too. It was 100 degrees at game time, so I was soaking in the sun. The ballpark was beautiful. All of them were great.
100 degrees at game time? Jesus.
Yeah, it was 100 degrees. And you're like, yeah, it's a dry heat, but also, like, I was sitting in the sun at, like, it was like the game time, I think it was at 6 o'clock, and it was still just baking in the sun around 40,000 people.
Like, the sun in, like, Boise was hot when we were in, like, Utah and, like, Colorado and Arizona. I went through, like, all those states, and it is dry heat, which is definitely, I'll take it over humidity, like, 10 out of 10 times, but the sun just feels different, like, kind of once you get past, like, once you hit, like, that Texas, like, Colorado line.
Yeah. Yeah, that sun it's a different beast. Like, being back east, it's like the sun just feels, I guess, normal because I grew up here, but the sun in Arizona is just like, it almost feels like a higher power almost, just soaking down on you. And it felt the same way in Denver. Denver, I think, the way that I enjoyed Denver was I went to Coors Field, and it was a good time. I went to this burger place across the street, which everyone said, like, you got to go to Cherry Cricket while you're there. Cherry Cricket. Talked to a bunch of people. They're like, you got to check this place out. It's been around since the 40s. It's like a classic Denver spot.
Did they invent the Smash Burger?
Smash Burger was created there. I don't know if they invented it, but I know the Smash Burger company started in Denver.
Okay.
But this Cherry Cricket place, to be completely honest, of all the food places I went to, this place was the worst, by far. The burger was overpriced. It's like the classic millennial burger bar. I think that's the exact burger I got. It looks way more appetizing.
In it.
Yeah, and mac and cheese that was not very good. Burger, was the burger bad? No, but for $25 for the meal, just a little rough. And the burger tastes like, I don't know, like if you went to, like, I don't know if you have cold beer and cheeseburgers where you are, but it's one of those. It's just like a classic, like, run-of-the-mill bar burger. Like, you can get pretty much at any bar wherever you are. Not special at all.
Yeah, people were talking about there was the whole. Were you following Burrito Gate over the past few weeks, where you have like it was like a weird thing where like the political topics, since there's nothing going on in politics right now, because it's like kind of just in between midterms and stuff, everyone was like talking about $20 burritos when the real inflation isn't burritos, it's burgers. You go to Five
Yeah.
Guys, you're spending like $15-20 there minimum. Even like McDonald's, where you can still go to Taco Bell and like escape there with maybe getting 3 tacos for $20. But yeah, just looking at a burger like that, like the burger inflation I feel like is way worse than the $20 burrito inflation.
I would agree. I think like burgers should not be $20. Burgers are meant to be cheap. That's why we have places like McDonald's, Burger King, insert every other fast food restaurant. Like burgers are meant to be
Terry's.
served quickly. P. Terry's, great by the way. All these places like they should be quick, easy, and cheap. Like that's what a burger should be. I don't need to have a burger with fucking Cheetos on it. And the Cheetos were stale. Also, that's another thing. That place by far the worst. That was the worst meal that I had while I was on my road trip. I had a better experience at McDonald's, frankly.
I would have
than that
sent
meal.
back. You probably had a better experience at Steak and Shake too.
Oh, Steak and Shake was way better. I also like that was a place that I had you in my mind because I'm like, do I just leave? Do I just leave this burger place? Like, when am I going to go back to Denver? And I really debated it, but I'm like, if I get caught and I go to jail and I have to miss another game because of it, like, I don't want to deal with this headache. So that's the only reason why I didn't pay for it, or did end up paying for it. But I shouldn't have paid for it. And then Sunday, I have a whole day in Denver. So I decide, like, how do I enjoy one day in Denver? I had all these suggestions, but all I really did is they had these bird scooters, but they're not the bird brand. They're basically like mini bikes in a way, like scooter bikes. You can sit down on them, but you could buy like hour-long passes for like 20, like I think it was $12 in general. So I spent the $12 and I just literally just popped some gummies, got some pre-rolls, got my coffee, and I just scooted around town. That was it. I went to like their Boston Commons or like Central Park equivalent, and I was just scooting around, looking at the views, and honestly, it was a great time, and it inspired me to do it for the rest of my trip. I did something similar in each city, where like I would travel there, and I ended up I popped more gummies. I went to the Dinosaur Museum while I was there, or Natural History Museum. Saw some dinosaurs. They had a planetarium exhibit that was starting at a certain time, so I went to the planetarium, popped more gummies, went to the planetarium, got a little schizo because I took too many, and then I went back and I just vegged out and just had a great time. Ended up seeing the Odyssey, which we'll talk about later, as my Sunday night ending. Got up early, headed to Kansas City, and the drive to Kansas City, I almost lost my mind because it's like you want to talk, if you want to test somebody's mental psyche, it's just this for 7 hours of just nothing. And it's not like mountains where it changes a little bit and there's different views. No, it's literally just this cornfield with this height and this view for 7 hours of just flat. You're just going straight. The cornfields are so high that you don't really see anything else. And there's just 2 lanes, just person going this way, person going this way. And it's just straight for hours.
I feel like you're in Chicken Little.
I feel like I'm in Chicken Little. It feels like I'm in fucking Wizard of Oz. I'm just like, I could do anything here. I literally got out of the car halfway through the trip, just pulled off to like a random town with 7 people there, and I just let out like the most primal scream. Nobody heard me. Nobody heard me, and it doesn't matter. I just went out of the car and just did a ah! Got back in the car, started driving again.
It makes you go insane. It's like
Yeah.
it's all flat. Like people forget. Like once you go east of Denver, there's nothing there. So you talk to people like, "Oh, you live in Colorado? That's cool." It's like, yeah. Well, the thing is, I live on like the east side. It's like my girlfriend has a friend who her like fiance, they have to go to Denver to visit his family. So she gets to Colorado for the first time, and she's like, "Wait, where are the mountains?" There's
Yeah,
no
you're on the wrong
mountains here.
side.
It's like, yeah, you're on the wrong side. Sorry. So it's like all just a flat Kansas part, which is fine if you potentially have someone with you. But if I was alone in the car, I'd probably lose my mind.
I was losing my mind for sure. So you know what I ended up doing, and I did this for the rest of the trip. I had those pre-rolls from Denver. I would just smoke, and I had my cruise control and I had my lane assist. Um, but I would just pop a gummy or two and just relax and just drive, and that honestly made the drive sandable. If I didn't do that, what would I have done? I don't know. So, yeah. Um, sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. Anyways, just straight. And then the funny part is entering Kansas City. I have like 5 minutes to go before I'm in the hotel. And usually with any type of city and every other city that I went to, you can like enter into the city and you see like the city skyline like 10 minutes before arrival. It was not like that with Kansas City at all. I got into Kansas City and I had 3 minutes to go before I entered my hotel. And I still had no idea where Kansas City was because it was the same fucking cornfields. And then randomly I just see a what are they called? What are those Ferris wheel? I see a Ferris wheel out of nowhere. I'm like, where is this Ferris wheel coming from? And then all of a sudden there's the city skyline. And they had a pretty nice skyline. Kansas City, of the cities that I went to, I had the lowest expectations for because what the fuck am I going to do in Kansas City, frankly? But the best barbecue I ever had, I do think that the place I went to, Arthur Bryant's, might be a touch above Terry Black's, but they're in the same class, I would say. I got to get Terry Black's again.
Is kind of touristy now. So like even like Texas barbecue, it's not even in the top 50. Like we have the barbecue pass, and Terry Black's is an honorable mention, but like out of the 50 barbecues, like it's not even in the conversation. It's just where you kind of take people if they're visiting. It's a famous spot. It's definitely good, but I could definitely see like, you know, Kansas City barbecue is legit. Did you notice like a different style of it versus Texas? Because people are like, oh, we have like Kansas City barbecue, then we have Alabama, then the Carolinas each have their distinct style. I'm like, how different can you make? Like it's all brisket, chopped turkey, sausage.
Yeah, they have this thing called burnt ends. I don't know if they have it in Texas, but it's like I would say that I couldn't really tell like the difference necessarily, but the burnt ends are basically just like brisket bites, basically. Phenomenal. The barbecue sauce is maybe a little sweeter than it is in Texas. Like Texas has a little more spice, but the brisket that I had at the place I went to, Arthur Bryant's, which I think is the oldest barbecue spot in Kansas City, it's up there with, I mean, it's probably the best brisket I've ever had. And then they had one called Joe's Barbecue as well, which is in a gas station. That one is probably a little bit more touristy, but damn good they had probably the best mac and cheese I ever had. So that's Arthur Bryant. So that's that picture down there. That's
Did you go to this one?
Yeah, I went to the original. Incredible spot. Brisket was to die for.
The fries kind of look like Wingstop fries, like in a good way.
Yeah, for sure. You can tell they're fresh too.
Did you get the mac and cheese?
I got with both of them. I spent $50. I just went all out. Got mac and cheese. I got brisket. I got ribs. I don't care if I'm getting barbecue. I'm not gonna care about my calorie count. I don't care.
Oh yeah, this guy looks like he even has the toothpick. This guy knows what's happening.
And then Joe's Barbecue is where I went to also in Kansas City. That place was really good. A little bit more touristy. Portions were a little smaller, but. And then I also went to the Royals game. Very underrated ballpark. Same goes with Kansas City in general. The way that they designed Kauffman Stadium is the Kauffmans who bought the Royals and brought Kansas City baseball to the MLB is when they built the stadium, they distinctively made it so that families could go into their neighborhood and go to the ballpark. And it was the first MLB only ballpark or baseball only ballpark. Same goes with Arrowhead as well, which is right next to it. I had 1 minute to go to get to my destination for Kauffman, and I couldn't see it anywhere. Every other ballpark in any other major sports town is going to have it in the heart of the city. This is like in the suburbs. And I had 1 minute to go. I'm like, where the fuck is this ballpark? Because I'm literally less than a mile away, nowhere in sight. All of a sudden, I see Bobby Witt, the star player of the Royals, and here we go. We see Kauffman Stadium. They had like 100,000 parking spots, and that's not even an exaggeration. But really cute ballpark. Definitely a little bit older than the other ones. A little bit more worn, and I know they're building a new ballpark, but really pretty. And the best of all, they had $3 draft beers. So best believe I had a few of
At a
those.
baseball stadium. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely a good deal. And then, yeah, it looks like Kansas City has about 523,000 people on the Missouri side, and then the Kansas side's 150,000 people. Metropolitan area is 1.7 million, so that's a decent metro,
Yeah,
actually.
it was nice. I took the scooter there too from my hotel. I went to the Negro League Museum and the Jazz Museum. The Jazz Museum was amazing. You had like these different exhibits that you could play, basically. So they had like one of them is like teaching you how to mix different audios together, like assembling all the different pieces of the jazz band together. And then they had a separate exhibit that was each instrument that's a part of the quartet, and you could isolate the vocals. So yeah, they had like shit like that. Inside of the museum, there's also a jazz bar that I went to later in the night. But amazing time. Kansas City is highly underrated, I would say. As a city, I was expecting it to be kind of more like a Memphis build, and it probably still is. It's definitely a city that wears its scars. But would I go back to Kansas City? Absolutely. Definitely liked it better than Denver. 100%.
It feels, yeah, feel pretty safe when you're walking around, like, were you ever like, or were you like, no, I can walk around here, and everyone seems pretty, like, chill, no one's on edge?
No. I wouldn't. I don't know if I would have. I don't know if I wanted to walk around as much. There are certain areas where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not going down there. But like, the jazz bars were really great. Had a great vibe in there. They had a lot of like classic musicians come there. Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong all performed there when they were starting out. So definitely a rich history there. Kansas City. After the game, I went straight to St. Louis, and I spent. I'm not kidding. Like an hour. Like I drove in there at night. I left at 9. I got there at 1 a.m. I slept at a Super 8 hotel, horrible hotel by the way, and then left in
Yeah.
the morning. Like I spent, I'm not kidding, like probably 30 minutes. I slept, woke up, left. I'm like, get me the fuck out of St. Louis. And then from St. Louis, I went to Chicago. And Chicago, I mean, it's not really fair to compare the other cities to Chicago, but Chicago, if we're talking about best cities in America, like Chicago is absolutely in the conversation.
Yeah, it's one of one, and it's all roads lead to Chicago. They literally built the road and railroad infrastructure where everything goes through that one city. And like as the Midwest, it's not on the ocean like New York and LA, but it is on the lake. I'm more of a lake person, so it's like it is a really nice city. Yeah, it has some problems. I feel like the crime though gets talked up a lot. You still have some issues, but it's in like concentrated areas where if like you're downtown, it's not as much of an issue. Like it's a
Yeah.
problem like every city, especially when it's that big, is gonna have it. But Chicago's skyline is cool. You can go in the Sears Tower. It's definitely awesome. They have the river there, it turns green. A ton of history there, but yeah, Chicago. I mean,
Wrigley was magical also. It's not it comparing it to Fenway, which I think is the fairest comp given how old both of them are. Feels like a ballpark they actually put some love into. The river that you talk about, I went to the concrete beach and
mhm.
it had like the river right there, and there's people playing volleyball, there's people swimming, there's like dates right there. Some people brought their dogs there. Like for a city that's as big as I don't know what the population of Chicago is, but I know it's a top 5 population wise. There was so many people there that were just soaking up the sun on like the classic summer day. Population of Chicago is a total of 9 million metropolitan area. So 9 million
It's the
people.
third largest city behind New York
Yeah.
and LA.
Yeah. And I mean, the city's huge. But it didn't, I never in Chicago felt like I was in danger at any point. I felt very safe there. Wrigleyville felt a lot like Brookline in Boston, a little bit, like definitely more suburby. Um, but Wrigley was great. And then great food. I got the deep dish as well. Deep dish is
What
more
do you
like
think of
a.
it?
I liked it. It's like I don't. I definitely prefer the normal style pizza more, like the New York style. But The deep dish is more like a sit down meal, and it doesn't really taste like a pizza. It tastes more like a pie portion of it. So it's good, but it's not. I don't consider that pizza really. It's more like like if you went to an Italian restaurant almost.
Yeah, I'm not like a huge fan of the tomato sauce on top, to be honest. I like the thick crust. I'm like a thick crust person. Like, don't get me wrong, I still love like a thin crust here, but I like a good double dough pizza. So like deep dish, I like the dough, but it gets to a point where like once you have one piece of pizza, you're like, can I have another?
Yeah, I got a little small pan pizza, and I mean that thing's heavy.
Yeah,
I was in Chicago for 2 days, and that was across 2 days. I ate that pizza, and it was
it's
one
so much
slice.
cheese too.
It's so much cheese, and it's so dense. It's a brick in your stomach. I mean, it's still very good. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, Wrigley was great. Chicago was incredible. Um, as soon as I left Chicago, that's when I felt that I was in the East Coast. As soon as I crossed into Ohio, I'm like, oh, these roads suck. Oh, here's all these tolls. Oh, here's all the lanes that are one lane, even though there's 10 million people trying to cross. I'm like, oh, we're back in the East Coast. That's great.
Yep. Yeah, I think
I hit
Chicago gets a bad rap though. Like I feel like it's an underrated city. Like it doesn't get mentioned with New York and LA enough, but people are like, "Oh, you're in Chicago," but like you have Ye is from Chicago. There's a lot of like pretty influential people like in modern media that are from Chicago right now. So it's like people are like, "Oh, like Chicago." I'm like, "Well, it's kind of like the best the Midwest has."
100%. The city skyline too. I always look at skylines. Vegas has a great skyline. New York City has a great skyline. Chicago, that might be the best skyline in America because no matter where I was in Chicago, I could have been in Wrigley. I could have been in. I was in like the downtown area. No matter where I was in Chicago, even when I was driving around, I could see the skyline no matter where I was, and the skyline just wraps around the whole city, which is kind of what made Wrigley so great. Was like I was looking out and I could just see pretty much the entire city. Could see the suburbs, could see some of the not so great areas of Chicago. All of it was just fantastic. So Chicago is a city that as soon as I left, I'm like, I need to go back to Chicago immediately. And I only got that feeling with probably LA, and that's probably it, honestly. If I had to go back, like for cities, the first time I went, I'm like, I have to come back here. The only other city that I had that experience with was LA.
You say
Another
it's
great
more
city.
enjoyable than New York, just like navigating.
Absolutely. 100%. The other thing about Chicago is picture New York, but cleaner, and the people there are not assholes. Like the people there were so kind to me, and it was so much cleaner than New York. New York's a dump. There's certain areas that reek. I didn't have that in Chicago. Chicago was super clean, super safe. People were really nice. People, they saw I had my Red Sox hat on because go Sox, but everyone's coming up to me like, oh, go Sox. Are you excited about their winning streak? They're having like small conversations with me. Where in New York, or even really any other city, they're either going to be fake to me or they're going to be
They'll
assholes.
jump
Even
you.
Boston, yeah,
We
or
saw the
jump me.
Knicks finals. Like they're jumping guys in wheelchairs in Spurs jerseys. Are you kidding me? Over a
Yeah,
basketball game?
yeah. Chicago, people super nice. It's right on the water. The water was beautiful. Like skyline's incredible. They have the marina too, like the that goes into the city, like kind of like how they have it in Italy. Um, Beautiful
Yeah,
city. Highly, highly, highly recommend it.
they literally reversed engineered the river in Chicago, and once they did that, all their shit flows to Kansas City, or not Kansas City, St. Louis. So they
Yeah.
literally create the Italians there, Italian architecture. I mean, Colosseum. I mean, they reverse engineer the river, so now it all flows into St. Louis now, and then St. Louis now takes all of Chicago's shit, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, Chicago, that was definitely the highlight of the trip, which I expected it to be. As soon as I left Chicago, the rest of the trip, I'm like both yearning to be home, but also going through those East Coast highways. Why does the East Coast do it the way they do? I don't get it. Ohio, they're charging me $12 tolls, but yet the roads are the worst of any of the roads. The two worst driving states well, three worst were Missouri, because Missouri sucks, and then Ohio. The roads were terrible. And then Pennsylvania, because my entire drive home the last day was just Pennsylvania. That was it. It was just only Pennsylvania. 7 hours in Pennsylvania. I had the longest possible route. But I went from Chicago to Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh, really underrated city as well. Steel City, a lot of history there. Also had a really pretty skyline. They had PNC Park, which of the 4 ballparks was probably the prettiest. Had easily the best skyline, best view with the bridge. It's a shame the Pirates play there, but Pittsburgh was really nice. Definitely has that East Coast city feel. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Boston, but maybe a little bit more working class. But definitely really liked it. Would go back to Pittsburgh. I saw the Steelers stadium when I was there, and that was a really nice sight to see. But as soon as I left Pittsburgh, it was just fucking rural Pennsylvania for 7 hours of my 11-hour drive back east, and it was absolutely miserable. So don't think I'll go through Pennsylvania again. Don't think I'll do another cross-country road trip, but good to be back east, back in New Hampshire again. We have a lady again, so all is well otherwise as far as the road trip. Looks like Marcus is having some technical difficulties, but if I had to rank the ballparks for historical sakes, I go Wrigley, PNC Park, Kauffman, Coors, which I think is probably a hot take for most people. But nonetheless, something went wrong and they've been not recorded, blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Anyways, but yeah, Wrigley, beautiful experience there. Kauffman was super underrated. PNC Park, beautiful, beautiful skyline. So I really liked it a lot. We'll give it a few minutes here and see if Marcus returns. If not, we'll conclude the show for tonight. But next week we'll be covering the NFC North and the AFC North. We have 2 more weeks of schedule predictions, and then week of the 8th is the last week that we'll be here. Bob Gino, I appreciate you tuning in. I wish I could have you on this live right now and have you pop in. But definitely a great road trip. A lot of perspectives there. Felt great to be able to live in Arizona for a couple of years, come back east, and it's like a homecoming party a little bit. So definitely happy there. But we'll conclude the show for tonight. Make sure to tune in on socials. And most importantly,